He wanted to see if things had changed. And respondents to a CNBC Flash Fed survey have dialed back their inflation and recession concerns, but both remain elevated, and policy uncertainty continues to be pretty high. The 34 respondents, they include fund managers, strategists, and economists, put the recession probability at 41%. That's down from 53 in April following those tariffs imposed by President Trump. But concern about a recession remains above the 36 you can see there from March, and it's nearly double where it was in January. Compared to March, the growth outlook is a touch better at 1%, but that's still weak. The inflation forecast is high, but better at 3.1%. You can see just down a little bit on the CPI. Unemployment, a touch better, 4.5%, still elevated from the current level. Forecasters, they have low confidence in their numbers. More than 80% said they were uncertain about the outlook for tariffs and their economic impact. John Donaldson from Haverford Trust puts it pretty succinctly. The volatility of policy proposals, reversals, and restarts results in less confidence in all of my responses. In almost every case, there's a possibility of giving an entirely different answer in the next 24 hours. Forecasters also beginning to focus on the impact of fiscal policy. 70% saying proposed deficits in the current budget bill in Congress were larger than they had previously expected. But a 36% plurality saying the bill makes them more optimistic about the economic outlook. 39% said it made no difference, and 26% actually more pessimistic. A majority say the recent tariff reductions on China will have no influence on the Fed. 32%, or about a third, believe it makes rate cuts less likely this year. So the average forecaster now looking for a 3.9% funds rate by year end, a bit more hawkish from May, but that's because the economic outlook, especially on the employment side, brightened just a bit. Becky?
Steve, I think what jumps out at me the most is just this idea of a forecaster saying, look, the picture could be completely different in 24 hours. I think that volatility is what we've seen reflected in stock markets, too.
I have some of the commentary in there suggests that the uncertainty is maybe the worst part. One of the people who wrote, one of the respondents wrote in saying that if the policy was known, people could plan, and the economic impact of even a bad policy would be reduced. It's the uncertainty. Another person wrote in and said, we don't know what happens when this 90-day period is up. And it's also unclear to a lot of companies, which, by the way, I'm going to try to do some reporting on here at the CEO Council meeting in Tucson here, which is they don't know what tariff they're trying to get around or how long it'll be there. And, of course, there's a lot of really interesting stuff that I'm reading, and you guys are reporting about how companies are responding. One company says they have to raise prices, another says they'll hold the line. And then I think that sports thing that Andrew just read is fascinating, that they're going to find a way to manage through it all.
Yeah, I would argue the uncertainty is probably worst for hedge fund managers, for the economists, all the people that you were surveying in this, the strategists. If you're a business owner, you don't like the uncertainty, but I think you would take this uncertainty over the certainty of 145% tariffs coming from China if you're sourcing your stuff from China. Probably depends on where you sit for those perspectives.
That is very true. When it comes to that, I'll take that. And that's sort of what the this conflict that's out there, which is, on the one hand, you're a lot better than it was before. On the other hand, several respondents write in, hey, 30% is still pretty high. And then there's a question which I have to get to the bottom. Maybe you guys know. Is it 30% or is it 30 on top of the prior 20? Is it actually 50% on China? And if you didn't know about the 145, you'd say that's pretty high. That's going to be a big negative for the economy.
Yeah. Steve, thank you. We'll see you again soon.
Pleasure.
Coming up, geopolitics and the oil markets. Dan Yergin's going to talk with us about Iran, Russia, the impact of the energy markets, all after the break. Plus, IAC and Expedia chairman Barry Diller is going to be with us right here at the desk live to talk markets, media, and so much more. That's at 8:30 a.m. Do not go anywhere. Big show ahead right here on Squawk.
PGIM, finding opportunity in fixed income today helps secure tomorrow. Our time-tested fixed income suite, backed by over 145 years of risk experience, helps investors meet their goals. PGIM Investments, shaping tomorrow today.
My hair has gotten so much thicker ever since taking this.
I used to have a probiotic, a green juice. I replaced it all with this Arma colostrum.
You gotta take it.
First thing I noticed was the energy and recovery that it had after workout. You want to try it? Try arma.com.
Oh, dish soap is on sale. We need it?
Yeah. Oh, I think we need ketchup too.
What's in there?
Here. The ketchup's not in the fridge.
Ketchup does not go in the fridge.
Like when you were a kid coming up, you did this in your mother's house.
Right.
Baby, she failed you. I love your mother, but she ain't raised you right.
You try telling her that.
No, I will.
Wow.
Good wow or bad wow?
Just wow.
At IHG Hotels and Resorts, you can simply arrive or make an entrance. Stick to the agenda or experience something unexpected. With IHG's 19 hotel brands, you can guest how you guest.
Breaking earnings news, Home Depot, Palo Alto Networks, Target, Snowflake, reporting, market reaction, expert analysis, strategies for your portfolio. This week on CNBC and streaming on CNBC Plus.
Okay, $1 million deal on the line. You got this. Recaps and sales meeting insights from all my team's calls? Otter AI. It's you who is man's best friend.
Otter, the AI meeting agent.
The Daymaker pant by Public Rec. More comfortable than jeans, more stylish than sweats. With the Daymakers, you can choose your waist and length sizes to guarantee a perfect fit. Now comfort looks good.
TimberTech decking looks like real wood.
But there's no hassle of maintaining it.
I just take the leaf blower and blow the leaves off of it. It's fantastic.
We have a sectional out there, and we'll sit out there with a glass of wine. We feel like we're in heaven.
As we age, we get lines, and that's okay. But our makeup needs change. That's why I created What the Foundation. It's ultra moisturizing and melts seamlessly into your skin. Learn more at jonesroadbeauty.com.
Welcome back to Squawk Box, everybody. The futures this morning are relatively flat. We're talking about the Dow futures down by only about 6 points. S&P futures off by 11. The NASDAQ down by 61 after all three of the major averages closed higher yesterday, despite the weakness we saw at the open. President Trump holding a 2-hour call with Russian President Vladimir Putin yesterday, and joining us right now with what a potential peace deal might mean for the energy markets is Dan Yergin. He is S&P Global Vice Chairman. Dan, let's talk a little bit about this. I've kind of been under the impression that Russian oil never really left the global markets, and so as a result, it didn't do that much for oil prices. What would an unwind of that mean?
Well, I think on oil, Russian oil continues to be in the market, and it's priced at a discount. I mean, the real significance would be the return of Russian natural gas to Europe, which is a Putin priority, but something that has been different messages from Washington, but the Europeans, for the mostly, say, we don't want Russian gas. And if Russian gas returned in large volume to Europe, that would be a big hit on U.S. LNG exporters, like affecting about $120 billion of investment. So, and I think the other question is that I don't think that there's this great enthusiasm by Western companies to go back to Russia. The U.S.-Russian Business Council disbanded itself 2 years ago, and there's no indication that that council would want to come together again.
Yeah, that was kind of a weird takeaway from the meeting. I think a lot of people were anticipating that there would be stricter sanctions that were placed on Russia potentially. That's certainly what Senator Lindsey Graham and others had indicated, that if Russia doesn't do some sort of a deal and do a deal rather quickly, that President Trump would put a little more pressure on him instead of kind of kicking things to the Europeans. What's your read on how things stand?
At the end of the call, after the call, Yuri Yushakov, who's the national security advisor to Putin, said they were having such a good time they didn't want to get off the phone. Maybe that's true, maybe that's not true. But Becky, you're pointing to something, that there are really tough sanctions that 70 or 80 senators have signed on to. So, and presumably they're not doing that independently. So holding out that cudgel of sanctions. But at the same time, the president, so many different ways to interpret this. It could walk away, that the Pope should take over the negotiation. But I think the fundamental fact is that Putin doesn't want to negotiate. He wants to get to what he calls root causes. Root causes is the eradication of an independent Ukraine. That's what he wants. And he still thinks that he has time on his side.
What does Europe do in response?
Well, Europe is taking, they've said that they're going to put on more sanctions on Russia. I think it's the 17th package of sanctions on Russia. And the new German chancellor has taken a very firm line. And the Germans are saying, we don't want Russian gas coming back. So the question is, can the Europeans, to what degree can they supplant the United States in supporting Ukraine if the U.S. kind of backs off from it? And that's one of the other messages that President Trump and Vice President Vance indicated, is that maybe they'll just walk away from it or leave it to the Pope.
I guess one of the places the president seems to listen to from time to time would be from American business interests. What do American LNG exporters say? What have they said, and have they lobbied the president on this?
Oh, they've been very clear that Europe is an important market for them. 91% of the LNG that Germany receives comes from the U.S., and their point is, why would we want to give up a very important market to Russian gas? I don't think there's any general, if you look at U.S. business more generally, this isn't like the 1990s or the 2000s when people saw this big Russian market. Companies just would not be, unless it's just trading or of some kind, are not at all drooling excited at the thought of going back to Russia, because there'd be no confidence in what would happen thereafter.
The sanctions that the 70 to 80 senators have signed off on, can those be lifted without the Senate itself taking up that vote?
I think, well, they proposed in a bill. It hasn't been put into effect. And you assume this is coordinated with the administration, Trump sending message, we want to do business with you, or otherwise we're going to hit you hard. But meanwhile, while these discussions are going on, Russia has hit Ukraine with some of the largest drone and missile attacks of the war. So, I mean, for Putin, he just thinks, I think this is a waiting thing. He waits for support to dwindle away and gets what he wants. So that's his game that he's playing. It's a very brutal game.
Is that the end game as you see it over the next year or two?
Well, I think right now the question will be, first of all, whether the Trump administration just gets so peeved with Putin and that they realize that Putin is trying to play them. And secondly, it's the strength of the Europeans, including the degree to which they can really gear up their own defense industries.
All right. Dan, thank you. Good talking to you.
Thanks.
Coming up next, Pfizer making a major investment in China in an effort to boost biotech firms there. Details after the break. And then IC and Expedia chairman Barry Diller on everything from the economy to the state of media. His new book, Who Knew?, out today.
Okay, I know you never live in the moment, but is there one of these things?
Oh, this one?
That create the most satisfaction for you?
I'm telling you something. As you walk up the bridges, these two bridges, as I am on them, and I see people coming, and they're kind of anticipatory, and then I see them leaving, and I see that they're happy, that is living in the moment. That's as close as I'll ever get.
I can't wait to see their faces when we come out.
What seems to be the problem, soldier?
The belly, sir. It's full of Greeks.
Sneaky cowards.
Innovation changes everything.
Send it back!
With one investment, you can access the NASDAQ 100 innovators who are rethinking the world. Before investing, carefully read and consider fund investment objectives, risks, charges, expenses, and more in prospectus at Invesco.com.
What if I told you that you have enough credit card points to take your dream trip, but you didn't even realize it?
Before Point Me, I had no idea how much my credit card points are worth.
Now with Point Me, I'm getting 6 times the value.
My points took me to Costa Rica with my whole family. It was like finding $6,000 I didn't know we had.
Join millions of travelers who are getting 6 to 12 times more value from their points with Point Me.
Head to Point Me now and start getting more from your points.
Get more from your points today.
As a business owner, I've got a lot on my plate. That's why I use ZipRecruiter to hire. ZipRecruiter has this feature called Zip Intro. I chose the time, and it did all of the work of finding and scheduling the candidates for me. I just picked my top choices and talked to great people the very next day. The plan was to hire 2 people, but the candidate quality was so good, I wound up hiring 4 in a week.
Zip Intro. Post jobs today, talk to qualified candidates tomorrow. Try it free only at ZipRecruiter.com/CNBC.
This thing is so good for your gut health.
I used to have a collagen, I used to have probiotic, a green juice. I replaced it all with this Arma colostrum.
My hair has gotten so much thicker ever since taking it.
No application fee if you apply by May 30th at University of Maryland Global Campus, offering online and hybrid courses and lifetime career services. Learn about our more than 135 degrees and certificates at umgc.edu.
If your clients are only investing in public markets, they're missing out on the 90% of companies that are privately owned. Maybe it's time for a bigger pond. Start building wealth for your clients with private market investments.
Kelly Evans, Brian Sullivan, Power Lunch, weekdays 2 Eastern, CNBC.
Good morning. Welcome to CNBC Plus. Where to?
Countdown to the opening bell. Don't go anywhere. New York for the open.
On our way.
CNBC Plus, on-the-go access to global market data, news, and analysis as it happens. Access any market, anytime, anywhere with CNBC Plus. Start streaming at cnbc.com/plus.
Pfizer unveiling a new China strategy. Angelica Peebles joins us now with more. Hi, Angelica.
Hey, Becky, that's right. Pfizer is striking a deal with China's 3S Bio to license a cancer drug that uses arguably the hottest technology right now. It's called a bispecific antibody, and it targets PD-1 like the blockbuster Keytruda and also VEGF. Now, the drug that Pfizer is getting is already in several clinical trials in China for non-small cell lung cancer, colorectal cancer, and gynecological tumors. And 3S Bio plans to start the first phase 3 trial in China this year. Now, Pfizer's paying 3S Bio $1.25 billion up front and up to $4.8 billion for the rights to develop and sell the drug outside of China. Now, that's roughly double what Merck paid for a similar licensing deal late last year. And it just speaks to the interest here, both in this specific technology and also Chinese deals. So like Merck, Pfizer's licensing this drug from a Chinese company. And that's a trend that we're seeing across pharma. So far this year, 42% of big pharma deals with at least $50 million up front came from China, and that already tops last year's record before today's deal was announced, according to data from Dealogic. So this is just a continuation of a couple trends that we're seeing, Becky.
You know, Angelica, this plays into all of the cross currents in the tensions with China and the trade talks. How does that factor into any of this thinking?
So it's really interesting because I think you saw this rush of deals before the tariffs, and people were thinking, is that because people want to get ahead of those geopolitical tensions? But obviously you're continuing to see these deals come about. But I did think it was interesting in the release, Pfizer specifically says that it plans to make the drug in the U.S., which is something that we typically don't see. Companies really don't like to disclose where they're making their drugs. So I thought that was one interesting point and maybe plays into those geopolitical tensions.
Walter Isaacson was here yesterday and was pointing out that in China right now, China has more drug development studies than we have in the United States, that companies here are choosing to do it there more frequently than here, I guess because of problems they have trying to get things through the FDA.
Well, one of the things in China is that you can move much more quickly, and it's also significantly cheaper to run your clinical trials. And so that's why you're seeing this move to China. So you can get something that moves faster. You can have that data actually validated much quicker and at a lower cost. And so that is something that you're seeing. And also, you know, China has made a concerted effort to invest in biopharma. And so you're seeing a proliferation of companies, a lot of Americans who are Chinese Americans who are actually going to China and taking their knowledge that they've learned here and doing it there. And so you're seeing this just confluence of factors that is creating this rise in China. And obviously drug companies see that, and that's where they're going and doing a lot of these deals.
Angelica, thank you.
Thank you.
We've got a quick market flash for you. Check out shares of quantum computing, a high-flying D-Wave, the stock surging. This after the company said its sixth-generation quantum computing system, known as Advantage 2, now generally available for use. The company's CEO saying the system is so powerful that it can solve hard problems that are outside of the reach of one of the largest traditional supercomputers. D-Wave's system is available for use via its cloud service or can be bought for on-premises use by hyperscalers and supercomputing centers. That stock is now up more than 1,000%, 1,000% just in the last year, up 17% right now. Other quantum computing stocks are rising in the pre-market on the back of that news as well. Still to come in just a moment, IAC and Expedia chairman Barry Diller joining us after the break. And now we should say author of a book called Who Knew? We'll talk everything, the economy, media deals, and so much more. A great interview just minutes away. Do not go anywhere. Squawk Box coming right back. And a programming note for you as well. David Faber, our good friend, is going to be sitting down with Elon Musk later today. An exclusive look at the company's advancements in autonomous driving, robotics, and so much more. You don't want to miss that. It's at 2 p.m. Eastern Time on Power Lunch.
The road to opportunity is often the road overlooked. At Enterprise Mobility, we guide companies to unique solutions from our team of mobility experts. Because we believe the more ways we all have to move forward, the further we'll all go.
Did you know that somebody could literally steal your house? Yeah, that is a thing that happens. It is when a criminal forges your signature on one document, uses one fake notary stamp, they then take out loans using your home equity, and the worst part of it is, you don't even know it's happening until you start getting collections and foreclosure notices. This right here is why you need to use Home Title Lock.
Find out if you're already a victim. Go to HomeTitleLock.com now.
We the lazy declare that we will recline when we feel inclined. And yes, we feel inclined.
We answered our kids' questions all day. It's our time to prioritize, no priorities.
Why?
Because
we put in back-to-back doubles. So now we'll be putting in extra OT right here.
We've checked off our to-do list.
Now we're checking off our to-don't list.
we the lazy are taking back lazy.
By getting comfy on our Lazy Boy furniture.
Lazy Boy. Long live the lazy.
I think the thing that I do best is taking complicated ideas and making them understandable. It's my favorite thing to do. My ambition is to remain at the cutting edge. I adhere to work hard, play hard. I think if you're going to do something, you might as well do it.
Some things are just better at home. Our flooring experts come to you so you can compare hundreds of samples in your home. It's our best sale of the year. Get up to 45% off your entire project.
800-588-2300
Today.
You got your bag? Let's go, buddy. Let's go. Come on.
Mom, all my friends can do it. Can you help me practice?
First, we have to hit the one little bunny ear. Pull. Get one bunny.
Pull.
Did you just do it?
Yes.
You did it. Oh, I knew you could do it. Let me see. I gotta look.
We are joined now by a very special guest this morning right here on the set. We've been talking to him all morning on tape, but now we're going to do it live. We're going to talk about the state of the media, deal making, and so much more in the life so well lived by Barry Diller, Chair and Senior Executive of Expedia and IAC, and the author of the book Who Knew, which is available today. Good morning to you. This is not that book.
I was
by the
looking
way.
over there and I was
This is not that book.
Did we change the cover?
No, we have not changed the cover. We had a different author in earlier today, but not as important as you, sir.
Oh, yeah, right.
Congratulations to you.
Well,
So
thank you.
we've been showing lots of the conversation that you and I have been having. But before we even get into just the headlines and everything else going on, you've been not on a book tour because the book. This is just the beginning.
I don't know that there is such a thing as an actual tour. But my tour has been like within the 12 square miles of the city.
But how have you been feeling about all of this?
Exposed, weird a bit. I mean, it's weird to be the product if you've been making products all your life. To actually be the product is a kind of odd thing to feel. So I'm feeling it. And I don't know. It makes me feel, well, you know, I wrote this book and I should have known, since I'm telling the story of my life, that my life would be exposed. Well, here I am, surprised that it is.
Why are you so surprised?
Because I'm a dope. Because I have a great ability to compartmentalize. And I just, even though my wife said to me, get ready, I said, oh, no one will care. Please, no. Anyway, yes, so.
What has the reaction been? Have people reached out to you?
No, the reactions have been, I mean, they've been incredibly nice and positive and all of those things. But I do see not in the little beadiness of people's eyes, but I do see they look at me like, I now know you.
That may be you imagining stuff.
Of course
though.
it is.
Yeah.
All of this is imagining. But how could I complain? It's very nice, actually. I mean, to do it is one thing, and then you never, or at least I almost never thought I would publish this, and it was only relatively recently that I said that I would, in that like 10-year or so period of trying to write the thing. And, you know, once you do that, then you press the button, the rest is kind of auto. It just happens.
Okay, what's the most surprising phone call you've gotten so far?
I'm in my car a few days ago, coming off something, and I get a no caller ID, and I don't, you know, none of us answer no caller IDs.
But you do.
But I can't do the voice. Hi, this is Bill Clinton. And he said, I've stayed up all night. It was so incredibly sweet of him. He said, I've stayed up all night reading your book. And then he just went on about it. I kept trying to like say, gee, thank you so much, et cetera. All right, stop. It's making me like run into a wall.
Okay, we're going to talk about all sorts of deals that are in the headlines now, but I have one question about deals in your book. Was there any of the deals that you talk about in the book something that you didn't want to talk about? Was there any that they had
didn't want to?
Well, is there anything in the book where you were like, I'm not, because remember, there were parts of the book I think you weren't sure you were going to publish.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't think there was any, I think when I approached talking about probably the third Paramount little try, I actually took out of the book.
Why?
Because I thought, why should I put another thing in that I didn't do rather than the things that I did do? Because while we were in there for 3 or 4 months.
Which is the third try? Is this the most recent try?
Yeah.
You mean with around the Skydance situation?
Yeah.
Okay.
Around that
well,
one.
here we are then. So let's go for it. It's not in the book. We can do it here.
Oh, no, it doesn't matter. We were in there for a few months, and I realized that it was more about duty than desire. Duty in the sense that it would be first of all, a great way to end a book, given that my life was paramount, kind of twice.
Right.
But in the end, I thought, I just don't want to do that. And so we dropped out. We would have lost anyway, because who wants to be in an auction with someone who has a better balance sheet? And Larry Ellison has a better balance sheet than I do.
Didn't want to do it in the sense that it didn't make business sense from
No.
the
By the way, I think it makes enormous business sense. I think also, so I think they bought it abominably cheap.
Okay.
And so, no, I absolutely think it's there for the doing. And so, no, I think it's a perfectly legitimate economic transaction.
Okay, let me ask you a more complicated one.
What was that?
That deal is not closed yet. And there is a real question about whether it will close, because it sounds like
it'll close.
Well, maybe it will, but the question is, what Sherry Redstone and that team is going to ultimately have to do
to
effectively placate the administration. You saw just yesterday, they effectively fired the head of CBS News, and they pushed out the head of 60 Minutes a couple of weeks earlier. What would you do if you were in that situation?
Oh, I hope I'd brave it through. I hope I would. But I didn't have a guillotine at my neck as Sherry Redstone has, because for her, if that deal does not go through, I mean, she was in technical bankruptcy. So I guess you do what you have to do. But even saying that is kind of seems like wish not. What I think is heinous is that for a stupid lawsuit, there is no one who thinks this lawsuit has any merit. At least I ain't heard anyone, maybe a plaintiff's lawyer, but even that would have to cock his eyes. So it is utterly frivolous. So you ought to think, fine, go through, sue us. But the idea that the FCC actually says that is then a standard for holding up the transaction.
Look, we've seen.
I mean,
this
what have we
before,
come to? Where have we seen this before?
With the AT&T deal in the first Trump administration, that was put upon and put upon and put upon before you had to put everything together before it was unspun again. Yeah, and by the way, of course, eventually it happened because there was nothing to stand in its way. But it took so long to go through that process. There's nothing. The idea you can't fight City Hall. There is nothing to stand in the way that's legitimate of this deal. Nothing. Whether they settle it or not, I don't know.
Let me ask you about a different deal.
Yeah.
I don't know what you thought of Charter and Cox getting together just this past
Inevitable.
week. Inevitable.
Absolutely.
And you think that deal will go through?
Sure. And they don't compete with each other. Why wouldn't it?
And what ultimately happens then to, for example, parent company of this network, at least currently, because it's a spinoff. But I think long-term people...
You are all in such great shape.
God bless you.
By the way, let it go out. Buy the stock, which will probably trade at a very low multiple. It'll
Order
be money
canceled.
good
Order
really
filled.
quickly.
Order filled. Order submitted.
It's a great...
From your lips. From your lips.
Why? What's the
because
what's the street missing?
Because right now, everything linear is being discounted.
Yeah.
Everything. What will happen, just like happened in the record business, which is you had this great deaccessioning. And then, because people wanted records, old term, and streaming came along, it got resurrected. What will happen to these linear channels is they're going to all get reconnected into a bundle. This is not going to be a world.
Money will make up.
This is not going to be a world of a la carte.
Yeah.
So eventually, all that stuff gets reconnected. Not at necessarily the incredible high price points that it was, but legitimately enough to pay the bills with a lot left over. So it's just a matter of time.
Do you feel that way about all of these businesses? I mean, one of the, there's this business, then, David Zaslav potentially is going to be
doing the same,
pushing off some of his linear channels, including maybe CNN. I mean, you might see a lot of this.
Yeah, what an opportunity.
And so how long does it take to get resolved?
5 years. Oh, you mean for it to
come back?
Well, first of all, by the way,
if we're sitting here in 5 years from now...
Wait a second, wait. These are all very profitable businesses. I mean, the ability of Warner to spin this off is because it can take an awful lot of debt with it, because they're legitimate businesses that have billions of dollars of cash flow. Right. It's totally a reasonable, by the way, I wouldn't spin them off.
You wouldn't?
No.
Why?
Because I think they're enormously valuable. Even
if you're Brian Roberts and you hold a voting control in the spinoff company too?
Well, no, look, I think, again, I think keeping them is probably better. But if you're going to spin them off and you can keep control of them, which is vital, because what you don't want is someone to come in and cobble them up for scrap if they're out there with no protection. Right. Having Brian, the best steward, having voting control of it protects it for the time it'll take for it all to get reconnected, which I say is 3 to 5 years.
Okay.
But what do I know?
There is a lot. There's another question, though, about in the media business right now, which is just how valuable what people think of as the most valuable parts of these businesses really are anymore, which is some of the streaming businesses. So, how valuable ultimately is HBO Max, or, by the way, Peacock and NBC, or you can go down the line, meaning the businesses, there are certain businesses that are being split up.
Yeah, I get the point.
You get
Sorry. Here I go. The businesses are all okay. They're just never going to be, they can't really be big growth businesses anymore. The old, the hegemony has passed from the Hollywood quote studios. They will no longer dominate things. Everything now is dominated by the tech overlords because they really control it. Netflix, Amazon, and Apple control the entertainment business. They have, I don't know, what would you say, 100 times the resources of these legacy companies, and they're in control. They ain't giving it up. Doesn't mean these other companies can't survive. They will survive. They'll just be smaller entities.
It reminds me of Fox coming along and shaking up the 3 networks, primarily that were there, and then seeing like football, leaving CBS and going to Fox, because they could pay more because it made more sense for them.
When Fox came, there were 3 channels, then there were 4, and then there were 400 a few years later. That had real effect. However, the old companies, the legacy companies, ended up, like they did with every new technology up until streaming, they subsumed these companies and bought them in.
Right.
So they still controlled everything. It's only when Netflix came in and really ripped it away, and then Amazon came in with a completely different business model. The business model of people in the entertainment business is people come and pay you directly for your product. The business model of Amazon is join Prime.
Order
We don't
filled.
care what you watch, whatever. I mean, like you to watch good stuff, but it's another business model. How do you compete with that if you're just out there making good television?
We're going to take a break in just a second, but distribution.
Yes, sir.
So there's Charter, John Malone, you worked with for a very long time.
Yes.
There's Brian, there's others. And for a very long time, cable owned the train tracks. And, right, there was one set of train tracks, and that was it. Now there's Elon Musk, who has satellites in the sky. Amazon may be putting satellites in the sky soon. Obviously, the cell phone companies.
Yeah, what about this all?
So what happens to the values of the whole sort of distribution ecosystem?
Well, it's no longer their lunch to eat every day. It does not mean that they can't survive. They will, but their margins are going to be affected, of course. If you have competition, what's going to happen? You're going to have to lower, you're going to have to compete on price, which they will. It's not a disaster. It's just the great days when you had one railroad track that one group controlled. Those days is over. Netflix, whatever happens after this, Netflix won. They won more than 5 years ago. End.
The end. Well, it's not the end of the interview. We're going to come back in just a minute. The book is called Who Knew? We're going to get into more of that and so much more with Barry Diller right after this. Do check out this book. I said it's a love story, really, but we'll talk about that maybe as well.
Okay, fine.
Barry?
Weight loss. For so long,
I felt stuck.
I tried and tried again. Lost weight, gained it back.
But Zepbound means change. Zepbound is for adults with obesity to help lose weight and keep it off.
Activating 2 naturally occurring hormone receptors in my body, Zepbound works differently.
It's changing what I believe is possible when it comes to weight loss. It's changing how much weight I lose, up to 48 pounds. And some lost over 58 pounds.
Don't take if allergic to it, or if you or someone in your family had medullary thyroid cancer or multiple endocrine neoplasia syndrome type 2. Tell your doctor if you get a lump or swelling in your neck. Stop Zepbound and call your doctor if you have severe stomach pain or a serious allergic reaction. Severe side effects may include inflamed pancreas or gallbladder problems. Tell your doctor if you experience vision changes, depression, or suicidal thoughts before scheduled procedures with anesthesia. If you're nursing, pregnant, plan to be, or taking birth control pills. Taking Zepbound with a sulfonylurea or insulin may cause low blood sugar. Side effects include nausea, diarrhea, and vomiting, which can cause dehydration and worsen kidney problems.
Zepbound means change.
Discover the weight loss you could be bound for. Ask your doctor about Zepbound.
The number of public companies is shrinking, while the number of private companies is increasing. At Franklin Templeton, we're expanding access to the growing opportunity in private markets, offering the potential for greater diversification and enhanced returns. Through our world-class specialist investment managers, we are empowering advisors with solutions to build the portfolios of the future today. Alternatives by Franklin Templeton, your trusted partner for what's ahead.
Millions of families are now bracing for higher prices.
They're fearful prices are going to get worse, not better, on everything from cars to clothes, electronics to groceries.
Now, politicians in Congress could make our energy bills skyrocket too by cutting clean energy production and raising taxes on energy. It'll cost families hundreds more and kill thousands of manufacturing jobs. Tell Congress, don't make our energy bills even higher by cutting clean energy production.
Experience the power of CNBC Pro. All new investing tools securely linked to your brokerage accounts. Become a smarter investor with the power of CNBC Pro. Go to cnbc.com/getpro now. Breaking earnings news, Home Depot, Palo Alto Networks, Target, Snowflake, reporting, market reaction, expert analysis, strategies for your portfolio. This week on CNBC and streaming on CNBC Plus.
Welcome back to Squawk Box. We are speaking with the one and only Barry Diller. His new book is out. It is called Who Knew? And it's out today. And we've been talking about, I think this is actually it's a great business book, but it's a love story. Can we just talk about that for a second?
Sure. What do you want to know?
Well, I do want to know when you did the title, what you actually thought the title was supposed to mean.
The title came to me one day, these things do, celestially into my dim head. It came, who knew? It wasn't who knew with a question mark. It was who knew. That was what came into me. And then I started playing around with it, and I thought, well, yeah, okay, there is a question mark, but in some cases, but more, it's to me this double play of both a question mark and an assertive statement, who knew. I just thought it was a good title.
Do you think you knew,
and people said to me, one of my big advisors said, you can't have that title. It sounds like a Henny Youngman joke in the Catskills. And it's disrespectful to a very, whatever, serious book. And I said, yeah, I guess that's true, but I like it. So anyway, that's it.
Do you think you knew? Meaning that, this whole success was going to work out the way?
Of course not. I don't even know now. It's true. It sounds like noise, but it is true. I've never thought that.
One of the things you said to Andrew earlier was just this idea that having one big secret kept you focused and scared of one thing, and not of anything else.
I think it's, again, I'm not saying how, because it's hard to have, and particularly 50 years ago, God, I'm so old, 60 years ago, to have this big secret and to have to keep, or feel that you had to have this big secret, which is a cruel thing to do for someone to feel. But it does have, like many things that you have to burden, live through, plow through, do whatever through, it did have the effect, since I had one huge secret and one huge risk, everything else was riskless. So it enabled me to do things that most other people wouldn't do, because they had
What did you think was going to happen
risk.
if people knew?
Nothing. That's the myth. Well, it's not completely true. Well, first of all, mine was also confused. I wasn't absolutely certain, but of anything. Of course, I knew that I had basic instincts, basic desires, and all of that stuff. But when you really examine that, I think that's true of so many things. Your great fear usually is it will dissipate out there and nothing bad will. But at that time, there were consequences. There were, look, there are consequences today, of course, if you have same-sex sexuality. If you're an adolescent, it's the last thing. You just can't, not even risk it. You want to be one of the bros. You're a guy. You want to be part of the group. And if you're not part of the group, that robs you of adolescence, which I think is cruel.
We talked about this 2 weeks ago, but I don't think we showed the tape. And maybe we should just discuss it. How did you feel in this book, Disney War? You remember that?
Oh, no.
I was just going to ask how you felt, though, in that moment. Because in the book, it outed Barry in the book. Because Michael Eisner wrote actually a very lovely thing about you, suggested he become the CEO of Disney, but said that because of his sexual orientation, you need to like overlook that, and wrote them a memo.
This whole thing about outing, you know, I truly, once I was in my 20s, I was a kid, I was hiding everything. But once I was in my 20s and living my life, I wasn't hiding anything. I just wasn't making declarations. And so I think this whole idea of actually officially outing somebody, I always thought that was terrible because I thought that was pulling someone's privacy away from them for whatever. I understood the movement and all that. But by the time that story came out, I guess it was in a book that Jim Stewart wrote in the 90s or 2000s and whatever. I mean, forget about who knew. Who cares? But I did think it was a kind of cheap shot.
Barry, one of the things that you mentioned in talking with Andrew, too, was just this idea of Rupert Murdoch. It was like being with a sun god when he shined on you, when he shined his light on you. And you said some very nice things about John Malone, just how you completely adored him and loved him like a mentor.
I do, as of this moment. He's always been, and he really is the smartest person in the room. And he is still, at this moment, as you can see with this recent transaction, as he says, the phone's open 24/7, and he's answering that phone, and he is the master. If there is a master of media, it is John.
But you are so kind to so many other people. Do you realize how many people feel that way about you? Like the legions of people who we've had come through here and talk about it, everybody from Bonnie Hammer to Dara Khosrowshahi. There's so many people in business who you have played that same role for.
I don't know if I played a role like Dr. John. I mean, no, whatever. Anyway, I'm not the best comment.
Do you think about mentoring?
I don't like the word. I think it's too official.
Okay.
And I think natural mentoring, I think the word I just think is bimbo-ish, but you get very lucky if you're in the orbit of somebody who takes a strong hand with you. You're just really lucky. And the examples of that, of course, are almost everywhere. I think everybody's got somebody who took an interest in them in some way that profoundly affected their lives, and always for the better.
Let me ask you a different question. One of the things, and I didn't realize
it was not Sean, whatever his name is. That would have been an example not for the better.
Not Sean.
The one who's right now in jail being tried.
Diddy.
Yes.
Yes. Let me pivot off that for a second. I don't know how, but I was going to say, one of the things about this book is I would say, first half of your career is super well documented. And I think you give short shrift, frankly, to the second half, which in many ways you've probably had arguably even more success.
True, probably. Yeah, I guess so. I mean, yeah. You know what it is? It's the fatigue of writing.
I was going to say that. You got sick of
It's absolutely true. By the time I got there, I thought, oh, God, when is this going to be over? And then I knew it, and I came back to it many times to try to, to make it live more and give more detail to it.
Right.
I did the best I could. It ain't good enough. It is not good enough.
But it is your voice.
Yeah.
The writing is so good.
Oh,
the excerpt and the rest of it. I mean, Andrew said this before. He would put this in the pantheon with Shoe Dog.
Which I think is one of the great.
Your voice, your storytelling. You put yourself.
I love Shoe Dog. That's a great book.
Yeah.
What do you think? I was going to say, I think your best deal in the second half is Expedia, but I'm curious what you think.
Oh, well, Tinder is pretty good. I mean, Tinder from 0 to 1,000 miles an hour in about 2 months. I've never seen viral adoption like happened with Tinder. And Tinder, you know, we did pay fair money when we bought Expedia when it was losing money from Microsoft. But Tinder cost about $700,000, literally. Literally, it was simply what did it cost to build
and what did you think
product. We never spent a nickel on marketing. And Tinder valuation, I don't know what it was now, but it was about 15 billion at one point.
What did you think when you bought that company? Did you
Which one?
Tinder. Do you have any idea?
We didn't buy it. It was we developed
it, but
in-house.
In-house, but I thought you bought a little. I thought you brought some people in.
We bought nothing. We had a little innovation team in-house, and they created Tinder. And like anything, as soon as you saw it, you said, "Wow, this is just great." This kind of hit or miss. That concept of finding someone you wanted to do something with.
Okay, if you were going to start your whole career all over again right now,
yeah,
and you were 21 years old, what would you go do?
What would I do? We are doing that at one of the companies at ISC, which is essentially an incubation company to put its capital into things. So there are all sorts of things to do. You just wake up in the morning, you get a group of people together, you have like contentious, creative conflict discussions, and out pops an idea of something. I mean, there's no, look, today, if you were choosing a track, what track would you choose? I mean, I certainly probably would think that you got to do something that has the chance of not being disintermediated.
And don't you think in a world of AI, it's going to disintermediate everything, or no?
Not everything, of course not. But as many things will come as will go. But again, best look for things that technology is not going to be your overlord. Right. Your overlord, meaning that it can't disintermediate a good idea.
The book is called Who Knew? It's a great one. Thank you for coming in this morning.
Nice to be with you.
Appreciate it.
Congratulations, Barry.
Congratulations.
Thank you, thank you.
Squawk Box coming back after this.
The all-new Infiniti QX80, a 450 horsepower twin-turbo beast of luxury. Invest in an Infiniti during the once-in-a-springtime event. We won't raise the MSRP on any vehicle before June 2nd.
These bills are crazy.
She has no idea she's sitting on a gold mine.
Well, she doesn't know that if she owns a life insurance policy of $100,000 or more, she can sell all or part of it to Coventry for cash, even a term policy.
Even a term policy?
Even a term policy!
Find out if you're sitting on a gold mine. Call Coventry Direct today at 800-476-0100 or visit coventrydirect.com.
What does it mean to live a rich life? It means brave first leaps, tearful goodbyes, and everything in between. With over 100 years' experience navigating the ups and downs of the market and of life, our financial advisors will be there to help guide you through, so you can move ahead with confidence. Because with all you've done to find your rich, we'll do all we can to help you keep enjoying it.
Every day, I'm checking the markets throughout the trading session, working the phones, talking to sources to share insights, information, and all of the details that you need to make money.
Closing bell overtime for Eastern and streaming on CNBC.
Why go commercial when you can have all the comforts of private? The all-new Infiniti QX80. Invest in an Infiniti during the once-in-a-springtime event. We won't raise the MSRP on any vehicle before June.
It's just too many kind of restrictions hold businesses back. The taxes are too high. They cannot keep a budget. They always are over in funding things, and it's always a deficit. And it has its own challenges and problems. And I was there watching it firsthand. But the bottom line is that it has proven the state that you can be booming, have a booming economy, and at the same time be environmentally friendly.
That was former California Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger, also known as the Terminator. He's at the CNBC CEO Council Summit today talking about the finances in the Golden State. Sounding an awful lot like Charlie Munger there. There are going to be a lot more big names throughout the day at the CNBC Summit. For more on this, you can go to cnbcevents.com. All right, folks, that does it for us today. Make sure you join us right back here tomorrow. Right now, it's time for Squawk on the Street.
Good Tuesday morning. Welcome to Squawk on the Street. I'm Carl Quintanilla with Jim Cramer at Post 9 of the New York Stock Exchange. Favors on assignment, getting ready for a big interview today with Elon Musk today on Power Lunch at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Meanwhile, fairly steady pre-market after Monday's upside reversal. 10-year yields below 4.5. Our roadmap this morning, stocks coming off a sixth day of gains. S&P's now about 3% from new highs. Home Depot with a rare miss, but the stock is up on news about the outlook and pricing. And the president goes to the Hill today, this hour, in fact, to rally support for the GOP budget. Let's begin with the markets today, Jim. A lot of discussion about why retail came in middle of the day.
I know, but I think that it's all coming down to cadence, and I do think that Home Depot's got two things going for it that the others don't. One is that this is gardening season, and I was out there with Home Depot. February had been a bad month because of weather. So when we saw the actual number, we were very happy. And then Home Depot came out with something that we all wish Walmart had come out with, which is no increase because of the tariffs. But Home Depot is king. And they're able to say to a couple of captive suppliers, forget about it. Oh, look at what we got here. Yep,
President arriving almost exactly on time. Capitol Hill today as he makes some remarks.
I don't think we've ever had a party like this. There are some people that want a couple of things that maybe I don't like or that they're not going to get. But I think we're going to have tremendous, not luck, we have tremendous talent. This man has done an incredible job as Speaker. You know, we had a majority of one. We were one heart attack away from losing the House, okay? Now we have 7. That's a big, because we won some elections, as you probably noticed, and we're going to win a lot of elections. We have an economy that's roaring. We took out $5.1 billion. If you take a look, $5.1 trillion with a T, not a B. $5.1 trillion out of the Middle East. They're investing more than that. It's going to be ultimately more than that. At 180 wide-body Boeing aircraft. They're spending money at levels that nobody's ever seen. Usually a president goes for a trip and he loses money. In other words, he gives money. We went for a trip and we took out $5.1 trillion. Nobody has ever seen anything like it. And that's just the beginning. So I think we're a very unified party. The Senate's doing great. John Thune is doing fantastically. He's a great guy. And we're going to have a bill, the one big, beautiful bill. I think it's going to be, it's the biggest bill ever passed, and we got to get it done. Tremendous tax cuts for people, tremendous incentives, tremendous regulation cuts, all these regulations that are so horrible. And now you find out what happened, because Biden, look, it's a very sad thing what happened, but we're going to start looking into this whole thing with who signed this legislation. Who signed legislation opening our border? I don't think he knew. I said there's nobody that can want an open border. Nobody. And now I find out that it wasn't him. He auto-penned it. Who was operating the auto-pen? This is a very serious thing. We had a president that didn't sign anything. He auto-penned almost everything. He opened the borders of the United States of America. And I kept saying, who would do such a thing? Allowing criminals to pour in from all over the world, not just South America, all over the world. They came in from Africa. They came in from Asia. They came from the Congo. The prisons in the Congo in Africa, these are rough people. The prisons from the Congo are empty. You know where they are? They're in this country. Who would sign this? Nobody would sign it. No sane person would sign it. You know who signed it? Radical left lunatics that were running our country, and the Autopen signed it. And they didn't want him, and they were disappointed in getting him because they wanted Bernie Sanders. And then after about 2 weeks, they said, wait a minute, this is a gift. He'll do anything. We're going to use the Autopen. And they used the Autopen and everything. He didn't approve this stuff because when Joe Biden was with it, he would never have approved it. You take a look. He would have never approved open borders. Go ahead, another one.
Are Republicans still grandstanding in your view?
Oh, yeah, sure. You have a couple that will grandstand, but I think even the grandstanders should. Look, the alternative is a 68% tax increase. And you can blame the Democrats for that and one or two grandstanders. We only have one or two, but we have tremendous support. But you'll have a 68% tax increase, or you'll get a massive tax decrease. You'll get a tax cut, the likes of which we've never had before. This is bigger than any Ronald Reagan tax cut. It's even bigger than the tax cut that I gave, because as you know, that's being extended and increased. So this is the biggest tax cut in the history of our country. Or you'll get a 68% tax increase. And if that happens, I mean, what Republican could vote for that to happen? Because they wouldn't be a Republican much longer. They would be knocked out so fast. But we're going up to details. This is I'm a cheerleader for this party, and I'm a cheerleader for the country. Much more importantly for the country. But I'm a cheerleader for the party, and we're going to go up, and I think we're going to have a very good discussion. There are one or two points that some people feel strongly about, but maybe not so strong.
On one of those points, do you consider some of the proposals on the table, like co-pay and provider tax, as a benefit cut? How are you viewing those?
So we are looking at one thing. We're not doing any cutting of anything meaningful. The only thing we're cutting is waste, fraud, and abuse. With Medicaid, waste, fraud, and abuse. There's tremendous waste, fraud, and abuse. There's incompetent things put in. We have illegal aliens that are multiple killers with multiple murder records getting Medicaid. I don't think anybody minds if we cut that. The Democrats, on the other hand, are going to destroy it because they're going to leave these people on. We're cutting three things: waste, fraud, and abuse. We're not changing Medicaid, and we're not changing Medicare, and we're not changing Social Security. And if I wanted to do those things, I would have done it during my 4 years that we were.
Mr. President, what's your message to your fellow New Yorker Republicans who are hung up on the SALT issue state?
Well, SALT is a very interesting thing because the governors of New York and Illinois, you know, the big JB who's going nowhere. Probably right now he could be the worst governor in the country. But Illinois and Gavin Newsom, those are the people that want this. And they're Democrat states. They're all Democrat states. You know, Ronald Reagan tried very hard to get this passed, was unable to do it the way we have it, where basically everybody's treated equally. He tried it so hard, and he never got it done. He was always disappointed. He never got it done. We got it done. Now people want to change it. So we're going to be talking about that. But the biggest beneficiary, if we do that, are governors from New York, Illinois, and California. And those governors are the ones that blew it because they weren't able to get it. So I think we're going to be explaining that. These are all very blue states that I don't really believe. If we had honest elections, I don't actually believe. I think I would have won California. I would have won New York. I even think I would have won Illinois. I think we have to, you know, we're going to start this after. I was talking to Mike, and again, I'm his biggest fan. I love this guy. He's the only guy who could have walked in with a one. Think of it. You can't be a guy like me and have a one majority. You have to be a guy like him, a nice person. He's very religious. He prays. He's a man of God. And so am I, but he's really to a new level, I will tell you. He is a great guy. They love him in Louisiana, and they love him in... That's the only kind of guy. Somebody said, oh, well, we want somebody to... If you put a certain personality in there, you would have never... Look at what he got passed. What he's gotten passed. And just so you understand, he's getting this passed, too. And I don't think there's anybody I could give you guys that is so tough. You guys would run if you ever looked at him. If you ever saw some of these guys, you would not ask them questions you'd be afraid to. This guy did something that I don't think there's anybody that's more well-suited to be a Speaker of the House, especially under a case like this. Remember, we had a majority of 1 for 6 months, and that was a very frightening thing because the Democrats have really hurt our country. And we are going to go into very much, remember what I said, the autocrat. This government was illegally run for 4 years. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
President, should the DOJ be charging a member of Congress?
That is the president with some high praise for the speaker, having gotten this bill past the budget committee over the weekend, trying to get it done. The speaker's goal, of course, is to have it by Memorial Day. Jim, his comments about tax cuts kind of collide with what we heard from Moody's, 48 hours ago?
It does, and I think everybody wants tax cuts. That's kind of universal, but if you're in the bond market or if you're following the stock market, it's not what the bond market wants to hear. The bond market obviously controls, and we've seen interest rates every time we hear those discussions go up. And then when things aren't talked, they tend to go back down. But this is one that's in our face about the largest tax cuts, and it's not going to work for the stock market. It might make people feel better, but the stock market wants some progress.
On the bill?
Yeah. It wants kind of what happened in 2011, which is that there was a compromise, and it was something that at least momentarily kept the deficit down, but it was just momentary.
Right. I talked a bit about the House majority, which he said a very frightening thing. He said when it got down to 1, they had to make some adjustments on appointments and nominations to enlarge that majority. But we'll see. This SALT agreement is contentious with a lot of these blue state Republicans.
But I come back and just say the idea that you at this very moment want to say largest tax cut just shows that you really don't care about the bond market. And that's great. I mean, it's great not to. I think that that's our job, is to say, look, this is going to make it so rates can go up, which makes it so there's a lot of bad things that happen in the economy. And to not say that is just not to look at history. And I like an ahistorical approach doesn't work for me. I'd love to do it, but then what happens is that people, when they start losing money, say, why did we decide that what the president said was good for investments when it wasn't?
Yeah. Ray Dalio yesterday said the credit rating agencies, their job is to talk about whether or not a government can pay its debt. Right. What they don't count, what he thinks is the added danger, is the notion that the governments will then print a bunch of money, which is eventually going to come back to pinch bondholders.
Well, historically, that's what happens. Yeah. I mean, we don't. That's why Bitcoin's where it is.
Yes.
I mean, younger people. I spend a lot of time thinking about younger people, in part because younger people don't spend enough time, I think, watching us, because I think that they would have a better idea how to invest. But I do think that without knowing much, Bitcoin's very attractive, because what it says is I won't be hostage to that. I mean, look, there's people who want to leave the country for the euro, and that's silly. I think you leave the country because you have something that you really care about, obviously, and but Bitcoin is universal. The president likes Bitcoin. That hasn't hurt. When I speak to young people, they don't want to talk about anything other than Bitcoin and quantum.
We're going to talk D-Wave maybe later in the hour.
Right.
But to your point about crypto versus the bond story is not a sell America thing. The Japanese 30-year today going to 5.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that there's an emphasis that we have to do whatever's necessary, but it's not a whatever's necessary moment. I mean, this is not 2011 and Draghi is saying by any means necessary. This is just about getting together, Republicans and Democrats, and figuring out how to cut the budget deficit and do it, or else rates go higher, and then rates go higher, and then rates go higher, and rates go higher, and then the next thing you know, well, there's many things that get derailed, not just the stuff that's raised in price by tariffs.
Yeah, we're looking at mortgage rates with the 7 handle again this week.
Look, I mean, is it right to be bummed out about rates, about a tax cut? Yes, if you have a longer-term view. No, if you don't.
Right. That's a good way to put it. When we come back, we'll talk some more Home Depot. Speaking of rates, the company does talk about how the rate environment is impacting consumer psychology. We'll talk all things Tesla ahead of Faber's interview today with Elon Musk on Power Lunch, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, as futures pretty solid here. Rates well behaved, 30 years but still below 5. Stay with us.
Only the ServiceNow platform puts AI agents to work across your company. They deal with the small stuff that bogs you down.
Agents like secret agents?
You know, I once played a secret agent.
Oh, I missed that one. I heard you were great.
I was great.
When I started Walton Goggins Goggle Glasses, I didn't know how to turn all this fancy prettiness into a classy-looking logo. But GoDaddy Aero does, with its magical AI powers. It not only creates it, it slaps that sweet thing everywhere.
I have a structured settlement, and call J.G. Wentworth, 877 cash now.
I have an annuity, but I need cash now.
Call J.G. Wentworth, 877 cash now.
It's your money. Use it when you need it.
Call J.G. Wentworth, 877.
Call 877 cash now to get a $100 gift card for a free quote.
TimberTech decking looks like real wood.
But there's no hassle of maintaining it.
I just take the leaf blower and blow the leaves off of it. It's fantastic.
We have a sectional out there, and we'll sit out there with a glass of wine. We feel like we're in heaven.
Never miss a moment.
Order filled.
Having a 10% global tariff, that's going to help reduce the trade deficit, but also reshore and create fairer trading conditions with our partners overseas.
Companies recalibrate but will not reshore. 10% is not enough for companies to reshore.
Retailers, they're going to look across all categories of products and look at the elasticity of the demand for those products and maybe change prices on other products that might not have a tariff applied to them.
During the Rooms to Go Memorial Day sale, get this Kingsdown mattress any size and get a second mattress free. That's 2 for the price of 1. Buy the queen size Kingsdown for $8.95. Get the second same size or smaller free. Buy the king size, get another king or smaller free. Buy a full or twin size, the second one's free. It's buy one, get one. Plus get other great mattress buys on the best brands during the Rooms to Go Memorial Day sale.
A large touchscreen keeps everyone happy. The Subaru Crosstrek. Dog tested, dog approved.
Now, because of that trip and many other things, that's the least of it. The economy is doing great. The stock market's higher now than when I came to office, and we've taken in hundreds of billions of dollars in tariff money, and we've had no inflation. You know, they kept saying inflation. There's no inflation. Groceries are down. Gasoline is way down, way down. Everything is down. All energy costs are down. I'll tell you, to me, maybe the most respected thing, you saw the way they respected me between Qatar and Saudi Arabia and UAE, probably the richest, certainly the richest of their type nation, great places, unbelievable amounts of money. They respect our country again. They were going to go to China. China was going to take over those countries 100%. They were dealing with China because they weren't treated right by the last administration. And they have tremendous economic power. They have more money than anybody. We probably have more money, but we have other things that they are very, very, they are very cash rich, to put it mildly. And they're spending 5.1 trillion. Probably it's going to be 7 trillion by the time we stop. And somebody said every other president goes and leaves and spends money, gives other countries money. I'm the only one that goes and takes money back. When you think of it, I said, that's an interesting statement. I never thought of it that way. But we have this is really just a pep talk. We have a very unified House and we have a very unified Senate. And Mike is doing a phenomenal job as Speaker. He's going to be there a long time.
That is the president talking about the investments made in the country after his trip to the Middle East. Jim, a lot of money did come in. We do know, thanks to the Washington Post over the weekend, that about half a dozen of those deals were announced before he became president.
Right. They are big deals. There's a lot of money coming in. That's terrific for jobs. If you listen to Jensen Huang at Computex, he would say, look, the biggest problem is going to be a job shortage, but we can make it up with robots. That's one of the things I hope David talks about when he sits down with Elon Musk later. But the economy is doing better than expected. There's no doubt about that. But we're all looking at what is happening with the deficit, and we're making decisions that rates are going higher, so it really doesn't matter. Look, I think the president's right. Boeing, I think, is a better story than it was before he left. NVIDIA is a better story than before he left because of, although there's some very big charges that I'm reading about that we haven't talked about in China. But that's not what we don't trade that. We don't invest that way. Apple's a worse story than when he left because Apple has this India situation. We can go on and on. I mean, Walmart was a story that he complained about, that they are raising prices, and then Home Depot doesn't raise prices. So do we buy Home Depot, or is it worse that they won't raise prices? Right now, it looks okay. So, I mean, it's a mixed picture. And look, if I were him, I wouldn't talk well on the negatives. I mean, that's just not what you do in a political environment.
Yep.
You know.
Depot did say, we feel great about store readiness as spring continues to break. February was slow because of weather, but it got better in March and April.
I went to see them, and they were very abject about how bad February was because of the weather. But holy cow, I don't think people realize this is a cadence story. It is a month bingo holiday season, holiday being gardening, and it's sensational for gardeners. And I think that what people don't realize is that's where the money is right now. So it's not as involved with interest rates. It has much more to do with, do gardeners want to garden? And if they do, Home Depot was ready. I spent a huge amount of time with their gardening people. I don't think people realize this is front and center in this season. And what they're doing, I know it sounds soporific, what they're doing with tomatoes, what they're doing with cucumbers, what they're doing with peppers, and how to take share from everybody else, how to take share from the little guys. And they are ready. And I cannot believe, when I first saw it, I know there was a lot of negative commentary. I said, don't they understand how Home Depot works? It's a cadence story. And that's one of the reasons why at one point it was up 11.
Yeah. Comps were negative, 0.3, although the buy-side estimates, I think, were down 1, maybe?
Yes. But then the next quarter was, the quarter that we're in is very good. May is when, I mean, I'll be there. I'll be there this weekend, and I know that Home Depot is obviously doing incredibly well, but people who don't garden don't realize this is Christmas. And that's what they told me. And we had aisle after aisle of what they were going to do that's special for gardening. And you have to be very granular if you know the stock. You have to know how paint's doing. You have to know how drills are doing. But most importantly, you have to know how plants are doing. And their plant business is very strong.
Read through to Lowe's, then?
Very positive.
Yeah?
Yeah, well, because this is the do-it-yourself part that's doing well. No one's saying that, and one of the reasons why they can say things are weak is we're not seeing that housing turnover because of rates, but we want to make our place look better, and we want to garden. It's one of the reasons why Deere was strong. Deere's quarter really was amazing.
Yeah.
So I was really pleased with this, and I was also upset that you get a lot of artificial intelligence stories when it comes out, and just they decide Home Depot week, and they don't realize that Home Depot better each month is the headline. But what would the machines know? I mean, I'm reading a piece in the Journal about how there's LinkedIn that young people are being hired because they're not as good at proofreading. Well, machines aren't as good thinking. I mean,
or gardening.
Yeah, or gardening. I mean, look, if you're a gardener, you know, okay, they're selling out. And you got to go this weekend, and you got to brave the lines. You got to hope that they have some of the newer things that they're talking about for gardeners, because that's what they do. When I spent time with them, what they wanted to do was show me innovation in gardening. Now, most people think that gardening, you're just doing the same old thing. Not Home Depot. And it's remarkable. They understand that it's a guerrilla war, and they are the big guy, and they want to win in the trenches of gardening. And I know all of that sounds like completely bizarre unless you're a gardener, but man, this is my 36th garden, and I just can't wait to get there. And the fact that I missed last week, which was an amazing garden week across the country, that doesn't matter. We have to think of it like this: Black Friday. If Black Friday's really bad, then Christmas is going to be bad. We have a couple of Black Saturdays. This is the Memorial Day, but last Saturday was Black Saturday, and they're obviously telling you Black Saturday was fabulous for them. So people have to understand the way that business is a seasonal business.
Yes. We're in the thick of it now when it comes to building. And
they have these low-hanging tomatoes that are apparently producing tremendous sauce.
When we come back, we'll get Kramer's Mad Dash, countdown to the opening bell, bunch of movers to get to, and some sell-side research. By the way, Faber's interview with Elon Musk today at 2 p.m. Eastern Time on Power Lunch. One more look at the pre-market. Stay with us.
I get my ideas for Mad Money everywhere. I look at everything as a stock. I study it all the time. My viewers are my bosses. You come to my show and you learn how to do stocks.
Mad Money, weeknight 6 Eastern, CNBC.
I love the viewer. It means everything.
At the UPS store, we offer a lot because running a small business takes a lot. That's why we're the Help Protect Your Privacy store and the Give Your Business a Real Street Address store. So while you're juggling everything else like the boss you are, we're the extra pair of hands store. You can count on us as the shredding and mailboxing, anything and everything to keep you going store. Get 25% off shredding. Visit the upsstore.com/shred.
Make it, rain girl, make it.
You again. Everybody's loving that Grubhub deal with Prime, huh?
Should we just start carpooling? Amazon Prime member, you can get $0 delivery fees on Grubhub. Eligible orders only. Terms and additional fees apply.
What does it mean to live a rich life? It means brave first leaps, tearful goodbyes, and everything in between. With over 100 years navigating market ups and downs, we'll help you move ahead with confidence.
Introducing AG1 Next Gen. The daily health drink backed by 4 rigorously designed clinical trials. Next Gen is clinically shown to increase healthy gut bacteria by over 10 times and to close common nutrient gaps. It's one drink for whole body health. The next generation of AG1 is here.
When I started Walton Goggins Goggle Glasses, I needed a website. And GoDaddy Aero uses AI to make a beautiful website so fast it'll blow my customers' noggins while they're shopping for goggles.
Good morning.
Their noggins.
Oh man, that's a lot of bots.
Nuveen invests with the foresight and vision to anticipate the needs of future generations.
What's up, man?
Strong portfolios to innovate and adapt for what's just around the corner.
Why do we have so many bots?
Years of yesterdays, Nuveen knows your ultimate stakeholder is tomorrow. Nuveen, invest like the future is watching.
Market's about to open.
The opening bell is brought to you by Nuveen. Invest like the future is watching.
Bot's still short.
My own view is you know, where people feel pretty good because you haven't seen an effect of tariffs. The market came down 10%, back up 10%. I think that's an extraordinary amount of complacency. That's my own view. That when I've seen all these things adding up that are on the fringes of extreme kind of thing, I don't think we could predict the outcome, and I think the chance of inflation going up and stagflation is a little higher than other people think.
Let's dive in. Yesterday takes us to Jim's Mad Dash.
Well, there you have it. You've got a president that is talking about how big things are, not worrying about the deficit. And you've got the best banker saying, listen, we should be worried about the deficit. And then we have the analysts. And the analysts, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 analysts.
Thought I added Crash to the checklist band, but guess it didn't work.
Yes, so you have these different constituencies, and I think that stock won't be down. I think the stock goes up because the analysts are more powerful than whether Jamie Dimon is negative. I said that he would be
1 minute
morose
left.
in my note to subscribers, to club members yesterday, and he was morose. That's what he does. But what people didn't understand is that, holy cow, the bank's doing really well.
The headline in Barron's, I think, was Diamond's tariff warning should have rocked markets, but it didn't.
Right, because we're kind of inured to it. Now, I will say that
Oh man, so many bots, dude. It's crazy.
50% of the purchases are sourced in the U.S., but they're taking action 12 months from now. No single country outside the U.S. will represent more than 10% of our purchases. They're shifting rather rapidly, changing the global supply chain, hence why they're able to say what the president wished that Walmart said. Very hard for Walmart because it's got...
Someone sending bots over here? I don't know why.
That are not under the jackfoot of Home Depot. By the way, Home Depot just said that the do-it-yourselfer is not doing as strongly as the professional. Now, that is very odd. I did not expect that. It is incredible how important this company is. 6 of our 16 merchandise departments, positive comps, appliances, plumbing, indoor garden, electrical, outdoor garden.
No news, just a lot of Fed speaking.
Is the delta. This is what you have to. These are
You're more interested in
did a good job away from that. The Saturday
It's gonna wait 10 minutes or so.
Home Depot just doing a good job telling you, look, we're going to get this thing under control with the tariffs. And then everybody else, this is like a terrible thing for if you follow them. Except for TJX tomorrow, and I think they'll say great things because everyone got too much inventory.
Yeah, Cowan today thinks TJX comps are going to be up 4, maybe guide 2 to 3.
Yes. Now remember, when TJX reports, their headlines are always negative because they're a very conservative company, and then people come in and they sell their stock, and then they have tremendous remorse the next day. So just beware that some companies are just not going to be promotional, and TJX is probably the least promotional of the companies I've followed.
At the big board this morning, it's a real estate investment trust.
If it
Apple
pumps more, I'm
Hospitality
gonna short with the
celebrating
bot
its 10th
again.
anniversary at the NASDAQ. It's a UMB Financial commemorating the close of its acquisition of Heartland Financial, largest in the company's Century Plus.
There you've got an M&A, which is terrific. And let's not forget, the REITs did not fall apart. After all, we kept hearing that the REITs would do badly, and they're not. And remember when we used to say that everybody who was an urban was hurting? Well, the conversions are making a lot of people money. So the REITs turned out to be not the black hole. Simon is really good. Kimco is really good. We've got, actually, I think Federal Realty is doing well. I know a lot of people worry about Federal because they have a lot of business around Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
But if they can do well, then anybody can do well. I think this Apple is a good company.
Let's take stock.
15 minutes look like it's gonna drop more.
Talk about this afternoon. He's already on the tape.
That short might be still good.
Some comments. One is Tesla has quote already turned around. Europe is the weakest
No, I
market.
haven't. I was short earlier. I took profit.
He is committed to be CEO in 5 years' time unless I die. And having reasonable control of Tesla is the most important factor to remaining CEO, more important than pay.
Wow, well, look, then I want to know about the humanoids, because if you want robots, and most people are saying robots, we're talking about more than 2030. I got to know whether that's untrue. Is it 2027, which is what I believe he can say? Adam Jonas obviously has a lot of very thoughtful things that I hope that David addresses. I do know that today, for instance, Jonas talks about
Xiaomi.
Yeah, Xiaomi having quite a car.
The YU7, this latest Xiaomi model.
Yeah.
Which is why he thinks it's lit a fire under Musk on all time.
Just short with that FE account. That's just a yellow account. For 433, I'm sure.
And one of the things that I love about Jonas is he's not afraid to say something's great. And this thing sounds great. I mean, not that we're going to get him here because of our tariffs, but I am thinking if I'm Elon Musk, wow, Xiaomi,
Order
look out.
filled.
Now,
Okay,
I
that went
don't
in.
think that, I think he's not going to necessarily say my stuff's better than that because he's a very truthful guy. I want to know about humanoids. I want to know about what he's doing with Jensen because NVIDIA is very important to their autonomous vehicles. And I want to know, and I hope David asks it, can't we have federal rule that I can on I-95, on I-80, on I-90 have autonomous? Because that's who they got the data for everything.
How about Waymo today getting approval to expand autonomous to San Jose?
What's happening?
I mean, Uber's up 50% this year.
It's happening. I think people better start recognizing it's happening, and some of these towns are going to have to get on board.
What's the next time the
And I
Fed
think what
speak?
we're seeing, obviously, is that they're safer. We always knew they were safer. Waymo has tremendous data, safer than people. I think the next thing that the Democrats should do, the Democrats always want this old cohort that they think they can get. This is how you
Took
don't have to have
profit,
that take
got my
away the
money
key
back.
discussion.
Everyone's gonna short every pump now.
Just say, I want to go to the Democrats are what's, where are they? That was supposed to be their idea.
There's a great
Order
BofA desk
submitted.
note today where a colleague, one of their Asia sales colleagues, just came back from China. Robots are assisting people with a wide range of tasks. Shopping malls to provide directions, lifting boxes in factories, helping in schools with kids learning coding, food
Nice.
being delivered by robots and drones.
Yeah, I got up too early. Good
where we
job.
hope this is all headed, is it not?
Yes, and remember that there was a moment, it was probably like between like say 1:30 and
There
quarter
she
to that
goes.
sleepy. I don't know why I came out yesterday. I was like, wow, this was something that kept me awake. But he's saying it's happening. It's a little. Jensen has all these little robots, and he said, "Wouldn't you want one? Well, you're going to get one." And I want one. People are using them.
Is that your funded
We're just
account?
not using them. In our country, we're a little behind on the robot situation. And over and over again, you hear, well, actually, something like FedEx is using robots. Really, they're all in. What we don't know, I think a lot of people here are a little conscious of the fact that they're not hiring because they got robots and because they've got AI. But they don't want to talk about that. They don't want to talk about who they're laying off. They just don't want to hire. I mean, everyone's conscious. Like, if you listen to either Mark Benioff or at Salesforce or Bill McDermott at Service One, they're not talking about how you can lay off people. They're just not.
No. Although, we've got two big, we've got Microsoft Build this week and Google I/O, and there have been some takes on, say, Microsoft's layoffs, or at least
yes, there have
hiring
been.
pace.
Yes, there have been, and I think it is happening. People, like, when you speak, like, I'll always ask, and I'll ask after too, and I'll say, hey, are you able to lay off people because of AI? And they say, no, we're making people more productive. When I hear someone willing to lay off, I'm going to buy that stuff.
I need a pump so I can short again.
Because that's gross margin accretive. And no one's willing to say it because they're afraid or they think it's going to make them look bad.
Right.
But if they want to look bad, keep saying what you're saying. Which is that we're hiring like mad, but we also have robots. What's that?
And if you're being asked to absorb any kind of tariff impact, you might look at CapEx or headcount, would you not?
You've got to do whatever you can to be able. I mean, one of the things in Walmart, I just felt so bad for Walmart yesterday. Walmart is moving. If let's say something costs a lot, and because of a tariff, they're not going to make. They're going to eat some, and then try to make it.
Oh, what's that pump? Whoa.
Walmart's doing everything it can. Walmart has been one of the greatest inflation fighters. I felt that the president was misplaced about what Walmart's doing. Yes, they do make billions, but Walmart has kept prices down in this country. And for that, they need to be rewarded with low profit margins that make a lot of money. But Walmart's one of the few companies, and I think we're going to find Home Depot, where they go over to China and say, listen, hey guys, those prices aren't, we're not going to take those prices. And that's something the president wishes should be done, because instead of raising prices in order to stop them, Home Depot's lowering and Walmart's lowering prices. That's what you want. You want a government.
Oh, look, you can hide, comment, chat box. There we go.
Just say, listen, we're putting a big tariff on. But I'm not saying I'm
Maybe the
smarter
bots.
than they
Oh,
are.
that's lost ball.
It's a different method. I think mine's more practical.
You know what's leading to the downside, Jim, are cruise lines. I guess this is off of Vikings earnings, but Airbnb, Norwegian. Airbnb, I think, is basically flat from its IPO.
that's very, very disappointing. That's very disappointing because bookings.com, which did not have a great quarter, has been saying things have picked up. Royal Caribbean's been pretty positive.
400 strong.
But remember, Airbnb, I mean, Bookings has made a great move here. It was at its high. I mean, look, Airbnb is about, it's about an executive who does not want to say the things that I think he could say. I mean, Chesky, from the very beginning, has not stressed his strengths. At a certain point, if I were advising him, I would tell him to tell a different story because he makes you feel like he emphasized that we're doing badly in New York. Yes, but he immediately should have come back. This is my advice to him, and I've given him advice.
Your media coaching.
Yeah, I mean, okay, well then talk about what's doing right and what towns are terrific. But he just doesn't want to play the game. Now, the game is not to talk your story down. The game is to say, look, I'm going to tell a neutral story, but if I don't want to get things wrong. Walmart told a very neutral story. And I was down there, I was saying to them, guys, give me something. I mean, here's what happens. Like, you're
at 425 on a short on the
give me something bad. Tell me what's really going on. And Walmart was just like, okay, so we're hurting on this, we're hurting on that. And I'm like, hey, guys, if I go out with that story, what that says is your stock should be at 90. You've got to tell me why the stock's going up. And they'll say, well, actually, we're doing this, we're doing that. All I'm trying to do is figure out the real story aisle to aisle.
Are you done?
The guerrilla war aisle to aisle. When you speak to Chesky, it's
whoa,
like,
is that?
Here, we're not doing well there. We're not doing here, and the website's not doing well. Hey, fine. Okay, good. I mean, why don't I slip my throat while I tell the story of Airbnb? But
They're on the YouTube chat. You see it?
Is about not about terms.
You just got done with a meeting. Oh, they're on my YouTube chat right now.
For several days, that's not moving.
Sure. Overall, retail's actually doing quite well. Ralph Lauren, Tapestry,
Order candles.
And now I'm not short.
Levi
Put some money.
selling Dockers. That takes you back, does it not?
Finally,
Order
they get that
submitted.
deal done. They're getting it done.
Order
Take a look at Ralph Lauren. Okay, so this stock drops. By the way, Ralph Lauren had a great last quarter. I mean, a great last quarter. And Patrice Louvet is doing amazing. And so the stock
So did they? Oh, wow, that's a big drop. Did they approve this stuff? Everything's good, right?
It went down to 180 during this period. No one knows why. And then it bounces to 280. No one knows why. I mean, so yeah, there's just these, everything's granular. And you have to look at how aisle by aisle tariffs
Just bounced at a 400 again.
And Patrice Louvet, who I'm going to speak to later this week, I think he's got the best story about how to reach younger people. But that's what he emphasizes. He'll talk about TikTok. And TikTok over and over again is how you reach young people. A lot of people feel the big three right now are Insta, TikTok, and despite the stock, Reddit.
Yes, despite
Reddit.
Yeah, a downgrade by Wells yesterday.
Steve Huffman, whom I just really think is fabulous, he's the CEO of Reddit, is not telling the story correctly. And the story is that they're getting scrubbed, they're getting scraped, they're getting all these different GTPs, GPPs, they're doing well. But the main thing is they're a bargain for advertisers because they're so targeted.
Oh, we got one more day.
Give him a little, come on.
Yeah.
People at home must think, what does he do? Sit there and like tell these CEOs what to do? But when I hear a CEO to go wrong, okay, I don't sit there and say, oh, that's wrong. I say, listen, I don't think that's the story.
You know what's a good-looking retail name today, Jim, is Amer Sports.
Wow.
They are raising the guidance, assuming
which Docker did? I think he's insane.
Baseline tariff.
You know, they make some. Altrix is really good.
Yep.
And they good sneakers. I mean, wow. And you know, I want to hear what VF Corp says because
I still want to short
had
when it
a
goes
really
back up.
bad quarter last time. They report tomorrow. Can Bracken Darrell miss a second time? Because I think he's so good, I don't think he can miss. And that AS made me feel a little better about what could be happening there. He got smacked with Vans. Footwear is so dangerous right now, except for On. I mean, you see Nike made some tech layoffs.
Yes, I saw that.
I saw that because tech was I guess maybe people feel Logano was tech.
Well, there's still a debate about whether or not Dick's and Foot Locker together is Nike positive or Nike negative.
Oh my God, it is so. I mean, when I first heard it, I said, "All right, well that's Nike." Right then, for Foot Locker had just started moving aggressively with Nike, and then I thought that maybe it would be one of those things where people would love Dick.
Hello.
But Nike is not who you want to hit your star. I remember Mary Dillon, who sold.
What was the
Foot
low
Locker,
yesterday?
was telling
Did
me,
we hit
"Jim,
200?
it's
I don't think
Hoka.
so, right?
Jim, it's on." And I'm like, "No, it's not Nike." And I bought a pair of Nike Air Force Ones, and I wore them to a formal. And I think that people felt like it should have ended like the red shoes. Now, I don't know if people remember the denouement of red shoes, but the guy does cut her feet off.
Yes. I want to get you on oil before we run out of time. Conoco's CEO did make some comments that shale production might flatten if prices don't go higher, and actually might decline if we end up in the 50s on oil.
You know, he makes that comment, and no sooner does he make that comment than people say, "Listen, you gotta own it." And the reason why I'm a little skeptical about that is because owning an oil stock, it was Ray J came out and immediately said by Raymond James by COP, because I don't like stocks where the numbers are cut every day. I like stocks where the numbers go up. Simple. So, by the way, tell Brian Chesky that. I like stocks where the numbers go up. Like yesterday, the Phillies got into first place. I like companies and teams that go to first place, and I don't like the ones that go down.
Yes.
So that makes me inclined to, when I hear an executive say negative things, it makes me want to sell.
I like sort of like a mix of stock analysis and CEO messaging.
Well, so I mean, look, it's also maybe they need the wonder of chemistry.
Yes.
Some of these guys just don't know how to tell a good story. Now, Home Depot is going from up 12 to up 11 to up 10 to up 7 as they go aisle by aisle. But the problem is, I would say, you get, everyone's got one eye on what the president doesn't have an eye on, which is that the rates are really just kind of really going up fast.
That's still above the 200-day for the first time since March.
That's true, but I just think that it would have been great if I were the president. Boy,
Well, I don't know. 3 minutes
if I
still
were the
looks
president, would say,
bad.
not only are we
15
getting the
still looks
budget
like it's going to go
deficit in
down.
line here, but we're going to have tax cuts for the middle class. See, that's what you say. I mean, that's like if you want to be like Reagan.
Yes. Well, we'll see. Speaking of the president, he is meeting with House Republicans right now, trying to get some of these holdouts to support the tax and spending cuts bill. Emily Wilkins watching that this morning. Interesting comments, and this Caroline Leavitt yesterday, Emily, in the briefing, arguing that the bill doesn't add to the deficit, where some of the math analysis argues otherwise.
I mean, Carl, we could definitely get into that math analysis, but I think kind of the big thing now is, can Trump get Republicans united behind his bill this week? And that is
You
Trump's
long
message,
at 411?
telling Republicans basically get on
Oh,
board.
you're short. Okay, yeah. That's good.
He has accused several of them of grandstanding. He says that they need to work together and get this done. And his message to them is saying, look, if you don't pass this bill, if we don't do something, taxes on Americans are going to be going up at the end of the year. Look at what he just told reporters before he entered the meeting.
So this is the biggest tax cut in the history of our country, or you'll get a 68% tax increase. And if that happens, I mean, what Republican could vote for that
Yeah,
tax?
short is
Because
good.
they wouldn't be a Republican much longer.
I want to join in, but nice.
No, we should clarify that the 68%, that's a little higher than
There you go. Nice.
on Americans would be should this 2017 bill.
I'm trying not to fade the bot this time and just follow the bot.
Trump also gave some comments on that state and local deduction. That's
I
been
think
another
that's
big
50
sticking
points.
point for Republicans on the Hill as they figure out this bill. But what Trump basically came out and said is that, look, this is primarily going to benefit Democratic
Eating. I
governors.
only caught some of
Didn't
it
really
only.
note his own Republican members from high tax states, and this is a bit of a reversal from what we saw Trump talk about on the campaign trail. He also specifically called out Thomas Massey, a congressman from Kentucky, who has said that he plans to vote against this bill, has voted against bills in the past. Trump again
new
accused
lower
him of
day.
grandstanding and said that he
So
should
why
be
we're
voted
dropping?
out of office. office. You can already see Trump is starting to pick out members, to call them out directly, and to put the pressure on. The Republicans' goal for leadership is to get this bill passed in the House this week. They will need that so the Senate can have all of June to do its work, and then hopefully get this passed at some point in July. Carl?
Yeah, Emily, you got on the Chip Roy and Massey on one end arguing it's not tough enough.
289. That's a deep drop.
Arguing that it's too tough in some respects.
Good job, guys.
I mean, that's the give and take of it. I mean, you have the fiscal hawks who say we need cuts. This is a big opportunity. We can really do some stuff here. But at the other hand, you have Republicans who say, hey, if you cut too much, our constituents are going to get mad at us. We're going to lose our re-elections, and then Republicans could lose control of the House. We should also note that since Medicaid has been another major sticking point, that Trump did weigh in. He said he just wants to cut what he says is waste, fraud, and abuse. We know Republicans want to implement those work requirements, but it does seem like Trump is shutting the door on further cuts that they're looking at.
Emily, we'll watch it closely down to the wire going into the end of this week. Emily Wilkins in D.C. As we go to break, watch bonds today, very important. A bunch of Fed speak on the tape. Bostic and Barkin this hour. Collins later on. Mostly at 1 p.m. 10-year back to 4.51 and the 30-year 4.98. Here we go again, approaching 5. Stay with us.
The Bond Report is brought to you by PIMCO, a global leader in active fixed income.
Right, it's me. I mean, you. Wake up. Come on, man. You got to tell employers to take another look at all the benefits they're offering. Everybody wants to build the best team, and offering Aflac can help attract and retain that top talent. You know, we like that top talent. And listen, I mean, you got to listen. Aflac gives employees cash to help with unexpected medical bills. It's prime time to add Aflac.
Request a call today at aflac.com/prime. Ever worry that you're drinking too much? Take back control with More Health. More Health provides access to medication proven to
How
help
long will we
a
hit
daily
200?
pill to drink less, or quit drinking altogether. Text CNBC to 710-710 to learn more.
Did you hear? A secret hoard of 1932 $10 gold Indian coins have been found. These gorgeous 1932 gold coins are as bright
And then
and shiny
average
as the
down.
day they were struck, and less than 400 of these gold coins are available. Coin experts are calling the secret U.S. gold coin discovery a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and you can own a piece of the hoard. When you call, you are guaranteed a 1932 dated gold coin featuring Lady Liberty with an Indian war headdress and a majestic eagle. With limited availability, you must call now. These 1932 dated gold coins are still in uncirculated condition with brilliant luster. That is 92 years of history you can hold in your hand.
Yeah, that was a good drop.
888-870-6353. Call now and you'll receive a free bonus over a $55 value free with every order. Call 1-888-870-6353 to secure your 1932 $10 gold Indian coins before they sell out. Don't wait. You must act fast. Call now.
My hair has gotten so much thicker ever since taking this.
They used to have a probiotic, a green juice. I replaced it all with this Arma colostrum.
Gotta take it.
First thing I noticed was the energy and recovery that it had after workout. I wanted to try it. Try Arma.com.
In any business, you are the line between members and people. What's right for the business and what's best for everyone who depends on it. Solving today's challenges while creating future opportunities. It takes balance. CLA, CPAs, consultants, and wealth advisors.
For me, Squatbox is
Oh
practically
my
the most
God.
interesting people in the world. It's a privilege to get to talk to them every day. It's more entertaining than any other morning show, but you might get some useful information.
Squawkbox, weekdays 6 a.m. Eastern, and streaming on CNBC Plus.
What a year it's been for shares of Tesla. Gets to a high of almost 500, 488 or so in December of last year. Falls obviously this spring, gets to 214 or so. And now rebounding back to 345.
And we have David interviewing the man, which would be very exciting.
We'll watch for headlines about
I still have my short
SpaceX and
at
Grok
430.
and XAI, certainly the core auto business, humanoids.
Orders submitted.
Stargate.
It's just a lot to talk to the man about.
Meantime, S&P back below 59.50. We're back in a moment.
Good job, AV.
The all-new Infiniti QX80, a 450
Order
horsepower twin
I'm gonna
turbo
YOLO
beast
this
of
Steppy.
luxury. Invest in an
Give
Infiniti
it down
during
to
the once in a springtime event.
380.
We won't raise the MSRP on any
I don't
vehicle
care
until
what grows.
June 2nd.
We planned well for retirement, but I wish we had more cash.
You think those two have any idea that they can sell their life insurance policy for cash? So they're basically sitting on a gold
That
mine?
430's gonna
I don't
hit.
think they have a clue. That's crazy. Well, not everyone knows Coventry has helped thousands of people sell their policies for cash, even term policies. I can't believe they're just sitting up there, sitting on all this cash.
If you own a life insurance policy of $100,000 or more, you can sell all or part of it to Coventry, even a term policy, for cash or a combination of cash and coverage with no future premiums.
Someone needs to tell them.
Order filled.
What a go-
Order submitted.
I'm already short.
Do you hear that?
I don't hear anything anymore.
Find out if you're sitting on a gold mine. Call Coventry Direct
No,
today.
no, not
800
Order canceled.
Not to
or
profit.
visit CoventryDirect.com.
Grind catches up with everyone, even me. That's why I trust Cunol Ultra
Order
High Absorption
submitted.
Turmeric to support my joint health. It's the #1 doctor-recommended form of turmeric. It helps you keep doing the things you love at every age. Cunol, the brand I trust.
This is a big one.
The second major of the year for the best senior golf. Always some great stories here at this event. A special week indeed. The Senior PGA Championship on NBC and Peacock.
If you think tariffs are not affecting prices on furniture, you're right. At least at Rooms to Go, they're not. Because right now, during our Memorial Day sale, every item on sale is at pre-tariff prices or lower. You'll save on a
Crazy
huge
movement.
collection of beautiful furniture for any room. You'll get it fast. Plus, to make buying even easier, get 55
Oh, you're still short?
interest-free financing. So let's go. Shop the Rooms to Go Memorial Day sale now and save.
I still think short's good. Yeah.
Why go commercial when you can have all the comforts of private?
Order submitted.
The all-new Infiniti QX80. Invest in an Infiniti during the once in a springtime event. We won't raise the MSRP on any
It's a
vehicle.
profit. Up 500 now.
Jim, what's on Matt tonight?
Okay, so we have Palo Alto. They're about to report tonight on CrowdStrike looking through the lawsuit. CrowdStrike maintaining that this was Delta. $2 million is all, but you have to have willful misconduct. I actually think that in the end, CrowdStrike comes out okay. I think the cash is doing incredibly well. Jeff Bly, we have not had Wyndham Hotels in a long time. They're a very big chain. And it'd be good because, boy, are we ever worried about travel. And then tomorrow, I've got my monthly club meeting at noon. I want people to know that. They ought to join if they haven't, because everyone says that the meetings are the highlight of being club members. And I've got 5 stocks I'm very worried about, and 5 stocks that I think are terrific to buy right now. And Jeff's going to talk about the most recent stock that we like. Obviously, one of the stocks that I was not worried about when the show began was Home Depot, and now suddenly, because of the bonds and some of the things they're saying, it's gotten a little more critical. But I will tell you that the stocks that I'm worried about are going to shock me.
Really? Because we think they're safer than you do?
Yes, exactly.
That's going to be good.
Thank you very much. That's smart with me. You should join up in this.
We'll talk more about it in the morning, I assume, before the meeting. Jim, we'll see you at 6 at Mad Money, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Boss, don't forget David Faber's interview with Elon Musk today on Power Lunch at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. We're back in a moment.
Wow, looks like your hiring's making a lot of people happy. ZipRecruiter's new tool, Zip Intro, is a game changer. It saved me so many steps in the hiring process. Look, I just pick a time, and it handles everything, from finding great candidates to setting up interviews. So, no more back and forth. Right. I can just choose from this list and meet with them as soon as tomorrow. Oh, wow. Another dignified portrait of me.
Zip Intro. Post jobs today. Talk to qualified candidates tomorrow. Try it free. Only at ZipRecruiter.com/CNBC.
Is this how you're hoping to retire? Well, hope isn't a good retirement strategy. You've worked for a comfortable retirement for years. Now you need to plan for retirement income. Learn ways to avoid common mistakes, like being too conservative or not setting retirement goals. Have someone on your side to keep you on track. Call for Fisher's Comfortable Retirement Kit with the help you need to make your retirement a success, including the Investor's Guide to a Comfortable Retirement. 13 retirement blunders to avoid and maximize your Social Security.
Yes, should
Call
drop.
1-800-759-4477. Fisher tailors a plan to keep you on track for
Took
retirement.
200 after made like 800 on this. Damn, let's drop.
Call now. Call 1-800-759-4477. Call us today. You don't have it coming to you unless you plan for it. If your portfolio is 1 million or more,
Oh, is he still giving out those Apex?
4477.
Do you want to know where to invest $1,000
I thought he did yesterday, no?
Forget about AI, quantum computing, electric vehicles, cryptocurrencies,
Oh.
or robotics. A little-known technology is expected
What,
to become
1,000
roughly 10
accounts?
times bigger than all of those technologies combined. The World Economic Forum says that it's arguably the most exciting human discovery since
What's funny,
Hi, my
what's
name
his
is
name?
Vinny Tillman.
He won
I'm a
RIP
former
stuff,
hedge
but
fund
then
manager. I've been
the
featured in
coupons
virtually
was
every
used
single
up.
major financial publication and TV show. Now I'm
So who
stepping
knows?
forward with what could be the biggest story of my career. One market insider predicts that this technology could be even more important than the Industrial Revolution. And I want to give you, free of charge, the name and ticker symbol of the company at the center of this technology. Simply visit the website on your screen to secure your free recommendation now.
Introducing
One more
CNBC
pump.
Plus,
I'm gonna short it again. I'm gonna try to hold it longer.
#1 source in business news. On-the-go access to international financial markets, business news, and analysis as it happens. Bell-to-bell global live stream, CNBC Plus real-time data, and full episodes of CNBC's Business Day lineup on demand. CNBC Plus. Access any market, anytime, anywhere. Start streaming at cnbc.com/plus.
Order submitted.
Good Tuesday morning. Welcome to Squawk on the Street. I'm Carl Quintanilla with Mike
This is the
Nicola, your
pullback
host
we
tonight of the
needed
New York Stock
anyway.
Exchange, along with Sarah Eisen, who joins today from CNBC's CEO Summit. David's on assignment at Tesla's Austin, Texas headquarters ahead of a huge, rare interview you don't want to miss at 2 p.m. Eastern Time with Tesla CEO Elon Musk. In the meantime, S&P and NDX both going for a 6-day win, but bonds not necessarily playing along at the moment with the 10-year back above 4.5 and the 30-year approaching 5 once again. Ahead this hour, Alphabet kicking off its Google I/O Developers Conference. Big questions swirling around the company's future with search and AI. We're going to talk to a former Alphabet executive who now runs AI and quantum computing company Sandbox
Deep
AQ. Plus a key reading on the state of
Take your time, dude.
a very different tone from Walmart when it comes to tariffs today. We'll get you those details straight ahead. All right, we are 30 minutes into the trading
That's
session.
enough. That's
Here
enough
are
to come
three big
back,
movers
yeah.
we're watching. D-Wave Quantum.
We have like
is building
200,
some
just
more
YOLO
company
it.
release
But
its latest
10,000, you
computing
still got a
system,
chance.
Advantage
200 is
2,
hard.
which it says could solve quote, complex problems beyond the reach of classical
Oh.
computers. You see the stock is up 18%. This has been one of those favorite kind of speculative quantum names in the market.
Yeah, once you get that to funded, that's big money. You can milk that.
DB to hold from buy on slower than expected AI tailwinds, while Evercore upgraded HPE to buy as they call the risk reward levels favorable there. You see each one moving slightly in the direction indicated. And Levi Strauss is on the move as well. Following news, it will sell Dockers to Authentic Brands Group for more than $300 million. Levi's up 2.5%. Sarah.
Mike, I'm here at the CEO Council Summit out west, and look, annual gathering of CEOs from a cross-section of industries. And, you know, I thought it would be all about tariffs and the new administration and re-regulation, but, you know, there's a lot of talk also about just changes in consumer behavior and consumer buying habits. That's been a big trend here as well. And yes, how to deal with some of the changes we're getting in Washington. Just wanted to bring you some color from some conversations we've had already on stage. The CEO of Taylor Morrison, for instance, Sheryl Palmer, they're now the 5th biggest home builder in the country. Listen to what she said about credit profiles. She said, we are not seeing them challenged at all. In fact, their balance sheets are very, very healthy. Thought that was a pretty positive sign on the consumer. She said, yeah, the bigger question is, it's just, do I necessarily know what tomorrow brings? And am I prepared to make a big purchase like a home? But on consumer credit, strong. That same sentiment was echoed in a conversation on stage that we also had with Ernie Garcia, who's the CEO of Carvana, the used car big seller. I think consumer credit, he says, looks pretty stable. I think something that's also true is that if you have a positive credit month, given all the kind of macro credit trend data, you're likely to see 1/10 of the stories that you see for the negative credit trend month. In other words, it gets more attention, but actually underlying consumer credit looks strong. Mike, I bring it up because, we're all wondering what's happening with the U.S. consumer. Is all of that uncertainty going to weigh and lead to a big drawdown of spending? Even Home Depot, just in the last hour on the call, the CEO said the home owner remains healthy. For the most part, the home is the biggest asset and home prices continue to rise. So even if we do see sort of a slowdown from here, I think the backdrop is this is not like prior recessions or prior periods of economic pain where we have seen more strained or stretched consumer credit and consumer balance sheets. And that's an important factor in the market.
Yeah, there's no doubt as a starting point, we definitely don't see a ton of across-the-board stress either on corporate balance sheets or consumer. Now, you have seen auto loan delinquencies go up. You've seen the student loans kick back in, and that's looking like it's sort of immediately going to show up as being delinquent on some level. On the other hand, I mean, I think that if you do own a home and you have a ton of equity, you're fine. What we have right now is the debt problem or the sort of outlier is
I'm scared of fade a lot.
And so, this is what we're trying to do as a push-pull and say, most of the debt buildup has been at the federal government level, and we're figuring out a way to sort of finance that and get around it and figure out if that's going to impinge on the broader economy, Sarah.
Well, it gets back to the Moody's downgrade and really how big of a deal. I think the Moody's downgrade was just a reminder for folks that we have a deficit. We're going to need to contend with it. It's something this administration is acutely aware of. The Treasury Secretary himself, in our interview at Milken a few weeks ago, was saying that he's a deficit hawk, and they want to bring the deficit to GDP down to 3%. They're going to have to work on the GDP component a little bit as they try to pass this tax cut bill. But I do wonder, Mike, how much also what's in the swirl here of these higher Treasury yields, and we're looking at the 30-year again bumping up against 5%, has to do with the Fed speak, which continues to push back against summer rate cuts. The John Williams of New York Fed comments yesterday saying we're not going to be necessarily certain in June. They're still in this wait and see mode, and they seem very content about it. It feels like if we're going to get a cut, certainly not before September, and even then, they want to be absolutely sure that we don't have any kind of inflationary burst out of the tariffs, and that maybe if more companies are like Home Depot, which is we're going to absorb the tariffs and not raise prices, is the new we're going to invest in America. Maybe we won't see sort of broad-based inflation. It's also often a monetary phenomenon.
Doesn't hurt that lumber was exempted from the tariffs, explicitly from Canada, I guess, to allow Home Depot to do that. But no, it's true. Fed is in wait-and-see mode. To a large degree, CEOs are kind of in wait-and-see mode. Consumers, maybe they pulled some demand forward. Maybe they're still kind of figuring out whether things are going to get worse. But in the moment, there's not been a tons of change in terms of the real underlying character of this economy then, Sarah.
Absolutely. I think, and companies in wait and see mode, let's wait and see whether that has an impact on things like weekly jobless claims, because we really haven't seen any kind of layoffs pile up, on CapEx plans or spending plans from companies, because we really haven't seen much of a drop off. I know it's early yet, but as the trade sort of goes more into de-escalation mode, will we be able to avoid sort of recession or a deeper economic slowdown driven by companies being in wait-and-see mode or starting to pull back? Again, have not seen it much in the data yet beyond some of the surveys.
Right. I guess the other thing that we maybe could point to that's complicating the issue in terms of the bond market is
long-term Japanese yields were blown out yesterday. They're talking about their fiscal. So it's a global
Order
move,
canceled.
essentially, I think we have to acknowledge as well. Yeah. All right. Sarah, we'll talk to you again in a sec. Yields, as we mentioned, higher. The major averages slipping just a bit this morning after Monday's intraday comeback pushed the S&P 500 just barely to a 6-day win streak. Let's bring in Stifel Chief Equity Strategist Barry Bannister. His year-end S&P target is 5,500. Just a bit below where we are right now.
Order submitted.
Almost 10%. Barry, it's good to see you. Talk to me about what's going to get
short?
us to
I'm
that
long
point
now.
where the market has to have some kind of reckoning here. It seems like this comeback we've had in the last 6 weeks, cyclical's kind of leading. Industrials at a new high. Is that a false signal for what you expect?
3 cents where you shorted?
Well, there was a big sell-off, as you know, in cyclicals, including what is cyclical tech. And of course, we've had a retrace rally.
Yeah.
But, this is a transitional year, not just in Washington and what's going on politically and economically, but for the consumers. We've had a binge since the COVID handouts, and I think there's going to be a bit of a pullback on both personal
I didn't work out most of the time
and
too.
business uncertainty causing capital spending and even high interest rates with housing. So the middle quarters are going to be weak, and the question is, will the market care, given that it seems to move more on tweets?
And so what's the posture then in terms of how you deal with, okay, we've had this big comeback. I would say, a lot of people looking at, a lot of the sort of signposts and benchmarks of this rally, it seems like it's got good breadth support and momentum. So on a technical basis, it feels like the market is in grind higher mode. Why should you fight that?
Well, keep in mind your risk-free yield just showed on the board, pushing 4.5 on the 10, for example. So risk-free is looking awfully competitive against risk. We're seeing a cut in forward earnings estimates. Our view is that forward earnings will fall to about 5% growth. I was just looking, and they're at about 7.5% next 12 months now. So we're going to take some out of the latter part of the year on earnings estimates. The market is expensive. Valuation only matters when we get to extremes, high or low. And I would say that we're pretty high right now. So what you end up with is that consolidating choppy market, which we calculated as about 5,500 year-end S&P 500 down 7.5% from current levels. And you could, in the soft late summer, early fall period, as people realize the sudden adjustment of hard data to the surveys, you could see 5250 on the S&P 500, and that's about another 10% correction, an echo correction from the nearly 20% we had a couple months ago.
Yeah, I was going to say, we've been there at least for a little while, not that long ago, below 5250 as a matter of fact. Final point, I know that there are times when the mega cap tech cohort feels like it provides insulation from a lot of macro pressures and tariffs and things like that. You think it's wrong to think of it as defensive?
Yeah, initially after the massive spending handouts, the money handouts after COVID, the consumer was seen, and the tech capex for people to work from home was seen as defensive, and then tech did a huge round of cost cutting, and that preserved margins even when things softened up. And now they're seen with AI spending as being defensive. So what we'll see is the catch up on that. They are cyclical. It is a capital decision. And also advertising is completely discretionary when business profits come under pressure. So given their cyclical nature and their multiples, we think there's going to be a pullback on both earnings growth and the value of those stocks.
Barry, where does that leave the international component, especially when you got pulling up 50% for the year? How much is left there?
Well, yeah, the thing about international is it really would thrive on better growth abroad and a weaker dollar. But the relative earnings growth of the MSCI non-US is actually pretty good. And there is more value on the international.
Do you see on the trade of it,
We need
though?
a stronger economy, and that would also help small cap and value even more. But right now, what's going on, I think, on international is very exciting.
On there?
We're doing more
Who cares? Keep trading. You never know. It might be as a backup later.
Thanks. We'll keep it to it. Here's a roadmap for the rest of the hour.
Kind of like just trade it anyways, just in case. You know what I mean? And then take a screenshot of it, save it, and then later on you can let them know. I got it on my long. Took a little profit on it.
Speaking to SGOP members this morning as the path forward for the budget bill remains unclear. We'll break down how the uncertainty might hit the market. And a different take on tariffs. Home Depot out with results this morning with a very different message on tariffs versus Walmart. A big show ahead. Squawk on the Street is back after this break.
See, that auction did work. All the bots are gone. That's pretty cool. I like Streamlab.
Did your wife know you spent over $600 on takeout?
We're busy. We don't have time to cook.
Okay, but you know you're also paying for a meal kit on top of that?
Wait, really?
Look, just get Rocket Money. It shows you all your expenses in one place, and it even tracks your subscriptions. And any subscription you don't want, which for you, there's a lot you don't need, you can cancel right from the app.
I've never reset TPP yet.
Nope, no whole times
I hear people have issue with the reset. Like, you pay for it, but you don't get the account.
I'm a downloader.
New projects means new project managers. You need to hire.
Yeah, but people that use like 150K, you know, you pay $275, you reset for 100, it's a good deal.
Which makes it easier for you to hire them. Visit Indeed.com/hire.
No, you don't pay for activation. Only time you pay for activation, you get the freebie.
Commercial.
So I was like, it's worth the money if you can do 150K if you run it up like a lot. I suck at it, so I'm not gonna try. I did that with Top Step. Fell like 3 times. Like I gave up.
We need to talk about your finances.
My finances are fine. With Dash Pass, I saved $6 on my grocery order, so I told myself. Albuquerque, $0 delivery fees on dog toys. I got me an
What are you short? 378?
Compliments. She's so nice. Dash Pass.
Yeah, that's a hard short.
You need to stop spending.
You're not listening.
That's where I wanted it long at 370. NQ or MNQ? Okay. You'll have to add one later.
We get. Google's annual developer conference, Google I/O, kicks off today with AI obviously front and center. Our Deirdre Bose is at the conference in Mountain View, California, with a look at why this could be an existential moment for the company. Morning, Dee.
Or you could say, Carl, another existential moment, because a lot of the same questions from the last few years, they're still plaguing Google. Like, can it drive adoption? Can it reinvent search before someone else does? And can Google finally tell a clear, compelling story?
It's a 3-minute bear squeeze.
What is different this year is that the window to define the future of consumer AI, that is starting to close. You've got OpenAI, Perplexity, Anthropic, others. It is the upstarts that are forcing Google to prove that it's not just building powerful models, but it has products that people actually use. Comments from Apple's Eddie Q just a few weeks ago only underscored that shift. He said that chatbots like ChatGPT are already viable alternatives to search. So today's I/O keynote, it is really Google's chance, once again, to prove that it's not just reacting, but it's leading. And it should be, because it has every layer of the AI stack, from leading Gemini models to the cloud infrastructure to the apps and products that billions of people use every day, like Google Docs, Workspace, etc., Chrome. Yet the narrative has been unsettled, and investors have been skeptical that Google can actually win here. I mentioned this a lot, but it has the lowest price to earnings multiple of the Magnificent Seven. And take a look at this. It has underperformed the basket, Mag 7 basket, since ChatGPT really arrived in November of 2022. So guys, today is all about AI and Gemini, how it's being integrated across the stack and being used to push into new frontiers like extended reality and smart glasses. This all kicks off in a few hours. Right behind me, thousands of people are going to stream in. Sundar Pichai, the CEO, Demis Hassabis, who leads AI Google, they're going to be taking the stage, and they have to make that case that they can lead here. Absolutely, Deirdre, we'll be watching your coverage all day long. Deirdre Bosa at the Google event. Our next guest, perfect guest to talk to out of this. He worked at Google X from 2016 to 2022 in the Moonshot division, and then brought his company out of Google. That would be Sandbox AQ. He's also the author of Quantum Computing and Applied Approach. Jack Hittery is here.
Sarah, great to be here.
Welcome, and our CEO.
What a setting.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. So, having worked at Google, some of the questions that Deirdre raised about where Alphabet is in terms of leadership on Gemini and its AI model. What do you think?
Well, first of all, this week, big topic is going to be coding. And so in Star Wars, they talk about the cloning wars have begun. Well, the coding wars have begun now. And what does that mean? It means that we expect a big announcement today, tomorrow at the I/O Summit on Evolve. Evolve. That's
It's
going to be
pretty
Google's
recent you
entrant
fell,
into
so
the
I
AI
would just go for the
code.
cheapest one.
Programmers get the code out. OpenAI just dropped its one called Codex. There's
Last week was
Cursor
a
out there,
good
there's
one.
Windsurf. This is a major.
I mean, if you
battle
fail a
right
lot,
now
it's a
because
good deal, but if
there's
you
only
don't
about
really
6 to
fail
12
those
months left
evals,
before
pointless.
developers will lock
Last week
in
was
to
30%
their
on the
choice
expert.
of
Those were
AI to help
nice.
them code. And coding is a key killer app.
This
for
one
AI.
is
That's
good for
one big
like
topic that
new
we'll see
traders
leadership
that
on
comes
that
in
now.
and
Right now, it's
load
literally
the
a jump
account,
ball.
get a free
It's literally
reset.
a jump ball. So that's going to be the big fight of the
Like
next
buy
6
one,
to
get
12
one
months. That's
free
on the
kinda, you
prosumer
know?
side. When we look at the B2B side, that is still far from over as a fight. So Gemini really needs to step up in terms of its integration with Workspace, Google Slides, Google Docs, Google Sheets. All that is
Yeah, I don't
yet
think your
to come.
short might look
Hopefully they'll
good.
make
The
some
3
announcements
minutes like
this
it's
week on
gonna
that.
go up.
Microsoft and ChatGPT already have a tight relationship. We'll see how that evolves in the negotiation between Satya and Sam.
There's always
But
bottom
right
dip
now,
in
we'll
this
see how
market.
ChatGPT is more integrated into Word and Doc than Gemini has been in Workspace. So look out for
And
those
my mom
announcements.
was good too.
Deirdre
I
was
got
mentioning the lower valuation than some of the other big mega cap names. Do you buy the idea that some of their search is getting eaten into? But I mean, I'm using Grok every single day. People are using ChatGPT. How existential is that for Google?
Well, look, there's really 3 battles of AI. There's consumer, which is like search and basically personal apps. There's prosumer, which is coding, writing emails, and stuff like that. And then there's the B2B. On the consumer side, you're definitely going to see a dispersion of usage right now where Google Gemini is now integrated into Google Search. So I think it's still because of the publisher ecosystem that it has.
If it
When
goes-
you go to most websites, most of those ads are served by Google. So it's not just Google.com. that
Yeah,
is really
15
at
minutes
stake.
still
It's
looks
really
good for the
whole
downside.
publishing ecosystem that Google really is the leader on.
So you want to hold it
Google has a
longer,
strong
but
position, although it will be dispersed.
if it hits
The big
450, I don't know.
is
I
not
might
so
have
much
to
the
cut.
consumer side. It's really prosumer like coders, and then B2B is where the big money is going to be. That is just beginning now.
And you're in that world too. I mean,
That's right.
Dang, my mom was at
Google
385.
is the chairman. AQ is AI, Q is quantitative.
That's right.
Quantum. So you're sort of on the cusp of both of these big trends. How is yours different than a large language model, and what are you seeing from your enterprise customers?
Oh shit, I was short end. I didn't know.
Right now has been large language models trained on social media,
Orders
trained
submitted.
on cat pictures,
Let me
all
get
good
out.
stuff.
Order
There
filled.
we
The
go.
consumer side. But when it comes
Do
to
not have a
big
short in
business, when
there.
it comes to making a new medicine, when it comes to making a new therapeutic for
You
cancer,
canceled
for
this
Alzheimer's,
short.
new energy
I'll
that
leave
we
the
need
FE on.
to power the data centers that we all talk about on this show and elsewhere, that needs a quantitative AI. AI that's trained on physics and engineering and chemistry and biology and toxicology. That AI is very different. That's a large quantitative model, LQM versus LM. And I'm proud to say Sandbox AQ is the pace setter right now globally in LQMs.
But there's also a lot of quantum news. I mean, do we watch for that from Google, for instance? And where is Google relative
right now,
to some of the competitors?
Yeah, what's exciting, Sarah, is that we're seeing the quantum story really start to take hold. Quantum
Fish?
computing companies.
Yeah, I talked to
there's
him
about
on the
30
weekend.
companies out
They're
there that are
supposed to come
building
back
physical quantum
this
computers.
week on Monday,
Amazon's
but
building one, Microsoft,
nothing
Google,
yet. So I sent him a message
IBM has a
earlier.
great one as well. Then there's a lot of
I'll
startups.
give it 2 days.
Giveway
I'll
is in the
take
new
you
city.
some.
Today, announced
general availability of Advantage 2 quantum computer, most advanced performance.
So there's a handful of public stocks right now. D-Wave is public, IonQ is public, Bugatti is public. So we're seeing a lot of movement in those stocks as well. My recommendation to folks is not to focus on one of those stocks, but probably a basket right now, because all those quantum stocks probably ripe for M&A over the next 36 months. I'm expecting some of those public quantum stocks to be bought by some of the hyperscalers over the next 36, 48 months.
Why? What are they going to do with them, and when do we see the applications?
The fundamental question. Right now, the hyperscalers are in the key cloud wars where they're really fighting in terms of market share for their clouds. GCP, AWS, Azure. Quantum adds value to their clouds. And so they're doing stuff natively. They're offering the new quantum computers natively, but they're going to want to offer a bigger range of quantum computers, and that means acquisition. That means M&A. So I'm expecting in the next 36, 48 months, we're going to see a kickoff of a M&A frenzy in the quantum side.
We're also sort of increasingly aware of the global race for all of this, AI and quantum. Last week in Saudi Arabia, it was very apparent that they want to become a global hub, and that the U.S. wants it to build on the tech stack. What do we have to know about how the lines are getting drawn geographically and geopolitically around all this?
Choppy.
Yeah, this is a critical moment right now geopolitically for
Not doing
AI.
much.
What's the jump ball right
I
now?
did well on
are
my
the
funded
Gulf
futures.
states.
That's it.
Between the competitiveness of U.S. and China, People's Republic of China and the U.S., there is a major AI race going on right now. And the Gulf states, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Bahrain,
So you
UAE,
got one end, the other
these are
two is going to
key
blow
places
soon,
that
so
will
I
determine
don't want to touch
which
it
way
yet.
they will go. Will they side with the U.S.? Will they side to China? So far, the U.S. has been
But that's
successful
not the
drawing
payout,
them to
so
our
it's
side.
still good.
But it means continued engagement. So I think the president's trip was coming at a critical moment to engage with those Gulf states and to make sure that they're engaging with us in a key ecosystem. The fundamental announcements made last week, particularly with chips now being sold to UAE,
NVIDIA,
to other countries. Jensen was there on the
yeah.
ground. And again, Jensen's one of our partners, NVIDIA one of our partners as well. It's critical to see that kind of exchange of technology with the
It's
Gulf
dropping
states.
now.
Very supportive.
You might be able to
And
get out.
what is your latest read on China's capabilities at this point?
China is putting it all on the table. I mean, they're pushing all the chips on because they know how critical AI and quantum are. Quantum's important. Right now, BlackRock just issued an announcement just the last few days of the threat to Bitcoin. Bitcoin started moving in the last 48 hours because of BlackRock's disclosure that quantum one day will undermine the cryptography of Bitcoin itself. So that's something for investors to watch there.
Quantum will undermine Bitcoin?
That's right, because the current structure of Bitcoin is structured on cryptography. The crypto and cryptocurrency is cryptography. And BlackRock just announced the last 48 hours in a disclosure that quantum is a key threat to the current way. Now, what Bitcoin has to do is, as a community, is change out that cryptography for quantum safe cryptography. So that's what's happening with China there. And then on AI, China is all in. You've seen DeepSeek. You've seen Alibaba's
It's
Qian
right near the bottom.
It's worldwide. And so it's critical that the Gulf states, that U.S. engages with
I'm
those
not sure.
states.
I was long, but I got out.
Piece on the chessboard to make sure that they go with us and not with China. And that's why this trip was so important at this moment.
Well, we're lucky to have you to break all this complicated stuff down for us. Thank you, Jack. Always good to talk
Great
to
to
you.
meet you, sir.
Love the hat. Jack Hittery.
Hey, you got it. Green is good.
Thank you. Back over to you guys, Mike.
Sarah, thank you. Coming up, Apple could be facing
That's
a
even
surprising
better.
new competitor, according to one of the street's most closely followed analysts. Those details are next. Plus, President Trump on Capitol Hill
I
this
think
morning
3
meeting with
minutes gonna
GOP
go up.
members
I might
with
want to
some new
long
color
here.
from those
Drop.
conversations just coming out. We've got those details next.
Screw the box. Buy the dip. I'm sorry.
Do you want to know
Buy
where
the
to invest
dip, man.
$1,000 right now?
This market is
forget
fake.
about AI, quantum computing, electric vehicles, cryptocurrencies, or robotics. A little-known technology is projected to become roughly 10 times bigger than all of these technologies combined. The World Economic Forum says that it's arguably the most exciting human discovery since fire. And billionaire entrepreneur Vinod Khosla says
got like
you can
30
make
minutes
1,000
into the
times your money
giveaway.
by investing in this phenomenon. But if you want to claim a stake in this revolution, you have to act fast. We're about to cross what Barron's calls an impending tipping point. So, do you want to know how to get started with this
Yeah,
technology? Go to the
150K
website on the
Lucid.
screen, and I'll show you how. Hi, my name is Whitney Tilson. I'm a former hedge fund manager. I've been
My
featured in
eval? I
virtually
still have it
every
sitting there.
single
I
major
haven't
financial
touched.
publication and TV show.
Yeah, I
But
bought the
with all
Lucid
this,
straight to
I'll
funding
tell you
this
this,
morning,
I don't come from money.
so I'm
In
gonna
fact, my
work on
parents
that
were
later.
teachers
Just
who
trying
met
to
in the Peace
support them.
Corps. The secret to my success is that I have a knack for finding explosive investments
Total?
in massively disruptive technologies. I bought Amazon in 1999. I bought
50.
Apple in 2000. And I bought Netflix in 2012.
Yeah,
Investments like
50
that
of them.
helped me grow my hedge fund from $1 million to $200 million and nearly triple
Yeah,
my
but
clients' money.
it's
The
unfunded, so
technology
it's
that just
fine,
landed
you
on
know?
my
You don't have to
radar
touch it.
might be the most
unless-
disruptive
Well, you do have to
and
touch every
lucrative
5
one
days.
I've ever seen. One market insider predicted that it could be even more important than the Industrial Revolution.
Yeah,
I
you
want to give
just
you
flip.
free of charge the name and ticker symbol of the company at the center of this disruption. You don't have to
That's
give
why I
me
gotta
your
stop buying
email
these
address,
evals and
credit
just start
card, or anything like
trading
that.
on funded.
Just go to the website on the screen now.
That's a drop. It's coming down for you. It's going. It's at 89. You're about to get out.
Boxes. Sure, they bring you stuff, but they can't tell you which chair is good for your back pain. Simondo, who's holding her desk during opera, has some great advice. Discover life outside the box.
It's time to feed the dogs real food in the right amount. A healthy weight can help dogs live a longer, happier life. The Farmer's Dog makes weight management easy with fresh food pre-portioned for your dog's needs. It's an idea whose time has come.
Scan the code, shop the tag. Tonight, 9 Eastern, CNBC. Don't miss a members-only event.
You want to trade? We may not be for you. You want to invest? Come to the right place.
Join the CNBC Investing Club to access Jim's monthly meeting. Go to cnbc.com/monthly meeting.
Breaking news from a very busy Capitol Hill. Let's get to Emily Wilkins. Emily.
Hey, Carl. Well, yeah, Trump has been meeting with Republicans for almost an hour now, talking about this big mega tax bill that he's trying to get passed.
Trump's still
And we
on.
have a few more details about what those conversations were like. Trump's main message for those in the room was to get unified, get on board, and get this bill passed. He says he is tired of grandstanding, that he wants to move forward. And that included a couple specific provisions that have proven to be sticking points. SALT, those state and local caps. He basically told New York and California lawmakers that are pushing to raise them even higher to let it go, to drop it. Seems like he wants them to take that $30,000 cap that's currently in the proposal. He also had a message to fiscal hawks, specifically those who were looking for further cuts on Medicaid. Trump says that he wants to, of course, cut waste, fraud, and abuse, but he specifically told lawmakers to don't. And then he dropped an F-bomb and then said, mess with, do anything with Medicaid. So very passionate, very fiery language there. Clearly the president was fired up heading into this meeting. Right before he entered with lawmakers, he told reporters that he, again, needed Republicans to fall in line and even called out Congressman Thomas Massey, who, if you'll remember, has opposed a number of these major bills in the past. Listen to what Trump had to say.
I don't think Thomas Massey understands government. I think he's a grandstander, frankly. He'll probably vote. We don't even talk to him much. I think he should be voted out of office. And I just don't think he understands government. If you ask him a couple of questions, he never gives you an answer. He just says, I don't know.
Of course, now the big question is that did Trump's effort today on the Hill make an impact? Has he gotten some who are still a no on the bill to convert to a yes? We're expecting to hear more from lawmakers as they leave the meeting, but a few who left out early told us that Trump probably did change a couple minds in there. If the president comes in and is giving a directive that he does or does not support a certain policy, it's very difficult to argue against the president on that. Speaker Mike Johnson is hoping that he can pass the bill this week. His target date was Thursday, but the real deadline is before the Memorial Day recess. Lawmakers want to get this done in the House so the Senate can do its work as well. Guys?
So obviously investors are watching very closely, and there's been more jitters around what the fiscal situation looks like. What at this point are we looking at in terms of potential deficit drag?
425.
That's a really great question. We're still waiting for the official official estimate to come out, but a number of other groups have looked at this bill, and most of the estimates I see suggest that it's going to add a little north of $3 trillion to the deficit when all is said and done. And how Republicans will quickly counteract that is say, well, look, if we pass this tax package, that will lead to
I didn't see that drop. That was quick.
GDP and
Nice.
revenue. They also point to things like tariffs and DOGE. Of course, DOGE did not ultimately cut all that much at
Order
this point, and
canceled.
we'll see exactly what the outcomes are on
380 to
tariffs.
long.
Order
I think
submitted.
for a lot of these lawmakers, they really do want to keep the fiscal piece in mind. At the same point, they know that if they don't go ahead
I'm
and
bored.
extend
There's
this
nothing to
2017
do.
tax package, which costs trillions of dollars
I have
to
so
do,
many accounts to
then
play, and
millions of
it's
Americans
not
are
even
going
doing
to see an
anything.
increase in their taxes, and they know that that's not something they can let
I
happen.
don't want to
And
short
that's
that
putting a lot
little
of
day.
pressure on them to find a way to cope with the fact they will probably add trillions of dollars to the deficit.
You about to get out?
Yeah, and a bunch of promises on top of the renewal of the 2017 bill too. Emily, thanks very much. Apple could be facing a surprising new competitor, according to a well-respected Apple analyst. Steve Kovac has those details. Hi, Steve.
Hey there, Mike. Yeah, this is coming
Yeah,
from
I mean,
Beijing
15 minutes
Quo,
looks
TF
like it
International
should drop
Securities. He's
more
kind of the
later
GOAT when
on.
it comes to predicting what gadgets companies are going to be making. And today he's saying Amazon is actually working on a
Yeah.
foldable device. It kind of sounds like a foldable Kindle Fire tablet. And Ming-Chi Kuo kind of compares this to some things that Apple happens to be working on as well, including a foldable phone that we're expecting to launch as soon as the end of next year. But more importantly, beyond that, in 2026 or 2027, this kind of hybrid foldable iPad, MacBook thing, whatever you want to call it, that also seems to be on the roadmap, at least according to Kuo. And he really just
not
nails
drop.
it. He's so good at predicting what companies are going to do months or years before they do it. I'll just note that this is likely a project on the Amazon side behind Panos Panay. He was the head of devices over at Microsoft until about a year and a half ago. You know, all those Surface computers and tablets and other gizmos that come out of Microsoft, those were all his children, so to speak. And now he's over at Amazon trying to do the same thing. He has that big Alexa Plus rollout that's happening right now, and then also some devices. I will note, though, he does have some experience with foldable devices. Microsoft used to have the Surface Duo phone, which ended up being canceled because it didn't sell very well. Maybe he'll have a second shot at here, guys.
Steve, thanks. A lot of device news in the last few days. Steve Kovac today. Meantime, BTIG is hosting its annual Charity Day today, where the day's net commissions are donated to a number of nonprofits. Our Contessa Brewer is live on the scene this morning with a special guest. Morning, Contessa.
There, Carl. Good to be with you this morning from BTIG's trading floor, and with me, Alec Baldwin, one of the
Oh,
very
that's
many
before
people who
him.
are coming through. You know, Stephen Starkey, the founder, said this is the one day they're focused not on capitalism, but on giving back. What charity?
Was it on not Ugo, but Zoom? Hang out. Okay. You can see their faces too?
I know that you're getting ready, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're getting ready to go shoot a movie in Europe. Is that right?
That's like
We know that
Apex.
the
That's
White House administration is
different.
looking for ways to bring business back to
Order
the United
canceled.
States and talking about tariffing international films. How would that affect the movie industry?
You think it's because you were trading at different locations? You know, like Chicago, Cali, and all that.
We're going to have us walk at the end of the romantic comedy at the base of the Eiffel Tower. Where's the
Yeah.
Eiffel Tower in the United States?
Las Vegas.
Not because my first time I did, and I don't think Doc did it too, but that was last year.
There are things that have to be shot overseas, and the overseas film community is really a benefit to all of us, more work. So I don't think the tariffs are great.
You've been off of a really rough period of time.
That's my food.
How
I
does
did
that change the way you're
put my
approaching
short
movie
in.
making and life in general?
I don't want to work anymore.
Order
I want to stay
submitted.
home with my kids. So that's really where I'm at right now. Just, you know, when I leave home, I'm unhappy. When I stay home, I'm happy.
We've seen some other well-known famous faces here. John Ledecky of the Islanders, Chelsea Clinton has been through, Kevin Dillon. They're talking to me a little bit about the trades they're going to make. Do you have in your mind that there's a stock that you want to trade?
I don't intend to tell you that on the air right now. I have a lot of secrets. As most people know, I'm kind of the Nostradamus of the stock market. I know what's going to happen. Years, centuries in the future. So,
Thank you. Appreciate it. You know, they've raised, Sarah, $60 million here over about 2 decades. So it's a really big deal for BTIG to be involved with this and for the celebrities and the traders as well.
Yeah, nice to see every year. So many different folks come out for Tony, thank you. For charity, Contessa Brewer at BTIG. Up next, Wolf Research's head of U.S. policy on what the uncertainty around the budget bill means for investors. Plus, Home Depot holding on to gains on the back of earnings, making some revealing comments about tariffs. That story and more when Spock on the Street comes right back.
When you're the leader in disaster cleanup and restoration, how do you make like it never even happened happen?
Keep it going. To get to the office.
By being prepared for anything.
I'm feeling that I cannot turn. That's my issue.
Surf Pro, like it never even happened.
I don't like living.
You've got a subscription to streaming movies and music.
Could always
maybe
just
even
take
one
loss, make it back up tomorrow.
But what about when it's your water line streaming? Repairs are expensive. Good contractors, hard to find. The plan from HomeServe is like a subscription for peace of mind. For one small monthly fee, when a covered system breaks, we'll send a qualified contractor and pay for the repair. Why worry? Get HomeServe and chill.
Plans from
Order
HomeServe
fill.
start at just $4.99 a month.
Call 1-833-812-2141 or visit homeserve.com.
Life insurance is a wonderful asset, but what happens when you no longer need it or you can't afford it any longer? Meet Tom and Susan. They chose to sell their policy for $200,000 cash. Now they're sailing through retirement. If you own a life insurance policy of $100,000 or more, you may be able to sell it for cash. Get an instant estimate at ovidlife.com or scan the QR code on your screen. Or call 1-800-502-0100. That's 1-800-502-0100.
Do you have a life insurance policy you no longer need? Now you can sell your policy, even a term policy, for an immediate cash payment.
We thought we had
Order, Bill.
Sure.
But we quickly realized we needed a way to supplement our income.
If you have $100,000 or more of life insurance, you may qualify to sell your policy. Don't cancel or let your policy lapse without finding out what it's worth. Visit CoventryDirect.com to find out if your policy qualifies, or call 1-800-523-6900. Coventry Direct, redefining insurance.
We know whether you grill with charcoal, gas, pellet, or griddle. We've got the perfect grill for you. Because only your local Ace has all the best brands in one place, like Weber, Big Green Egg, Traeger, and Blackstone. With free assembly and delivery of your new grill, along with all the sauces, rubs, and grilling extras, you'll have everything you need for your perfect barbecue. That sounds pretty perfect. Around the block, what you need in stock, with service so good it's guaranteed.
Welcome back. The president speaking with House GOP members this morning about the budget bill, telling representatives he's tired of so-called grandstanding and not to mess with Medicaid. Joining us this morning is Tobin Marcus, Wolf Research Head of U.S. Policy and Politics. Tobin, it's good to have you. As we watch some of this sausage get ground, you do think this ends up happening, although not easily, right?
I do. I think that they have to succeed, and so they will ultimately succeed in getting this bill done. We've been expecting July as the likely time frame for final enactment of the bill, ahead of the twin deadlines of the long August resets, and even more importantly, the debt ceiling X date, which will probably fall sometime in August. That's a really immovable deadline that they're in a very, very tough spot if they can't get this done in advance of it. But I think between here and there, we've still got about 10 weeks, and I think there are going to be some twists and turns.
What's your thinking now, given some of the long-term debt concerns versus policy that's going to be somewhat stimulative to the economy?
Yeah, so this bill in our reckoning looks like it is expansionary over the next few years. Not so much this year, but in 2026, those numbers get pretty material, a little over 80 basis points of GDP. And over the long term, you know, if you fully extend the expired...
Ah, shit, I'm wrong. Short.
It's about $7 trillion in addition to the deficit relative to current
You
law.
guys do short?
Well within the range of expectations for what the cost of this bill would be coming into this
I'm
year.
stuck in a short now.
Markets are starting to tune into that now. So,
Dang, we're in a big time, huh?
upward pressure on the long end of the yield curve about Trump premium. I don't think
see when I
it's
get out.
big enough to kind of tip us into some acute bond vigilante crisis.
Order submitted.
But you know, the fiscal situation is bad and getting worse, and we're seeing that in the long end of the curve.
Yeah, certainly paying attention to it more. Moody's warning only sort of reinforcing that. The fact that the headline from the president is "Don't F around with Medicaid" is this finally going to quiet all the Democrats that have been fear-mongering about Republicans and the president wanting to cut Medicaid and your health care?
Yeah,
Well, so the bill does have about $715 billion of Medicaid budgeted right now. I think the president's message in this meeting was to tell
bot might long soon.
not to push for cuts to Medicaid, where they had been pushing to accelerate the work requirements in the bill to add in some cuts to the funding for the ACA expansion population. So even if you freeze it as it currently exists, there's a quite substantial amount of
Order canceled. Order submitted.
that some senators on the Republican side, like Josh Hawley, have raised concerns about. So, I mean, the Democratic ads write themselves. They have a lot of muscle memory about running against healthcare cuts. I think they were planning to do that regardless of what the bill looked like.
Oh, Ray, I thought you said you. Oh,
We're going to get a chance to hear what the Senate thinks about all that, which will add another layer of complexity later on. Tobin, thank you. Good to see you. Tobin Marcus over at Wolf. Home Depot missing earnings.
Are you bringing your laptop?
In 5 years, but the stock
you
is
go.
gaining. More with one analyst forecasting a double-digit rally ahead of gold.
That's crazy. Come on. Just job data. Yeah, that's it. I might buy some more bow nuts just to gamble.
Is this your dream of retirement? This sweet deal. Or is this a little more your style? Retiring wealth isn't a guarantee, it's a goal. It's easy when markets are going up. But what about when they're not? That's why you need this.
Call for Fisher's Retirement Survival Kit, featuring your guide to surviving market volatility, our stock market outlook, plus the Fisher Investments Difference. 3 indispensable guides. Yours free for calling 1-800-213-5317.
Fisher Investments' disciplined approach will help see you through the market's ups and downs and give you the confidence you need to reach a comfortable retirement. And our fees are structured so we do better when our clients do better.
Call now for your free retirement survival kit. 1-800-213-5317.
See if your dream retirement is on track.
If your
throws the
portfolio
bot
is $1
long.
million or more, call Fisher today. Call 1-800-213-5317.
Catches up with everyone, even me. That's why I trust Cunol Ultra High Absorption Turmeric to support my joint health. It's the #1 doctor recommended form of turmeric. It helps you keep doing the things you love at every age. Cunol, the brand I trust.
I guess I'm not the easiest person to please. I like things just right. That's why I love Red Up's home recommendations. They know what I want even before I do. A home that's
Are you
just
so short?
Yes. Yes.
A lot of people in the network do stocks. I don't do stocks. I do everything else. The thing that I do best is taking complicated ideas and making them understandable to people. It's my favorite thing to do.
Oh, it looks like it's gonna go up more.
When
But
you're younger, you have a natural ambition. What's interesting is getting older
I might just
and
cut
still
it.
having ambition. My ambition is to remain at the cutting edge. I adhere to work hard, play hard. I've been obsessive by guitar playing. I think if
What
you're
did it
gonna
go
do
long
something,
at?
might as well do it well.
447. Oh, no, I was looking at the bot.
Volatility here to stay. One portfolio manager says he's planning on it. He's turning towards tech stocks that blend strong growth outlooks with low
Always about it,
relative risk. Tune into our Market Navigator segment later on today on Power Lunch to see which stocks could be poised to outpace
Give me
the
a look at
market.
chops, I can
2
just get
p.m.
out.
Eastern Time.
Opportunities don't stop when the market day ends. So neither do we. Schwab gives you round-the-clock access to over 800 of the most popular stocks and ETFs, plus a wide variety of futures markets. All with 24-hour support from trading specialists who understand the ins and outs of 24-hour trading. No matter the hour, you can trade brilliantly with Schwab.
This is my coffee shop. We just moved into a bigger space, brought on another employee, and ordered new branded gear for the team. It was so easy. I just chose my products, added our logo, and placed my order. Bring your own team together with custom gear. Get started today at customink.com.
Franklin Templeton ETFs. With over 70 ETFs, we have solutions
I need to drop some get out. Come on, baby.
helping advisors build the portfolios of the future.
I'll long a little bit.
Franklin Templeton, your trusted partner for what's ahead.
Welcome back. Home Depot out with quarterly results this morning, beating on revenue, missing on earnings, and reaffirming, importantly, its full-year guidance. Also, taking a different tone on tariffs than Walmart, saying it doesn't plan to increase prices. Joining us now is D.A. Davidson Managing Director Michael Baker. Curious what you make, Michael, of the strategy to publicly come out and say that it is not going to increase prices because of tariffs. First of all, how hard is that for Home Depot and its competitors to do? And why do you think they said it?
Yeah, it's a little bit more of a conservative approach relative to getting in the crosshairs with the administration, I think. I don't really think the different strategies are that different from each other. Home Depot is going to use a portfolio approach. What that means is that there might be some areas where prices go up, other areas where prices don't go up or even come down, such that on balance, the basket of a project or of a consumer spending won't really change too much. Again, I don't think that's that different than Walmart, where Walmart said they will be aggressive in some areas to try to take some market share. I just think it's a different signaling and different posturing. And for whatever reason, Walmart was just a little bit more aggressive in their messaging. I think trying to get the administration attention. Home Depot just a little bit more conservative in how they're talking about it.
Well, I think the question for investors then is, do we expect margin pressure on Home Depot if they're going to have to eat more costs when it comes to the tariffs, not passing it on to the consumer? I think they said they source half of their stuff from overseas.
Yeah, and one of the positive messages
Maybe
from
back
this morning, I think, is that Home Depot does have some offsets within their cost structure. Shrink has actually been very good for them, of all things. That's been an improvement 6 quarters in a row now. Supply chain costs are coming down as they're getting a little bit more efficient there because of leveraging past investments. So all those things enable them to absorb some of the tariff costs within their margin structure, but still show margins where they thought they'd be at the beginning of the year, which, to be fair, is down a little bit, but because of some of those mitigating factors that they have.
Good job. Bye.
How do you think about the company as it's navigating through this period and what you're paying for it? I mean, revenue this year for Home Depot is virtually flat with 2022. And we've had inflation in the general economy up quite a bit since then. You know, net income, cash flow, anything you look at has kind of been steady state for 3 years. They've really slowed down the stock buyback, which used to be a big part of the story. So when you're paying, mid-20s multiple, why is that at this point?
Sure, it is a premium multiple. Now remember, that buyback was slowed down because of the big acquisition that they made a year ago. But it is a premium multiple. I think that premium multiple really looks forward to a housing recovery. To be fair, that recovery does keep getting pushed off a little bit. But, to me, it's positive that they've been about flat this year in an environment, the stock price that is, and their sales, in an environment that really has not been great for them. So I think what we're paying the premium for is doing okay in a tough environment. Eventually that environment gets better, and that's where we should see a lot of leverage.
So interestingly, the Home Depot CEO, the Walmart CEO, and the Target CEO went to meet with President Trump last month to talk about the impact of tariffs. Now we've seen sort of how they're coming out on earnings and talking about it. Tomorrow's Target. What do you expect there, and how much more pressure will Target be under now to say that we're not raising prices? Can they do that?
Let me long on this account.
Yeah, again, it's tricky, and every CEO and every management team seems to be taking a little bit of a different tack. I would think that
Of course, when I long this thing dropped. Holy shit.
Target has not been doing as well as Walmart, certainly. Both
What the fuck? Oh, I got on my short, but my long is red.
Again, when they report tomorrow, in other words, negative comps, whereas Walmart has been taking share and comping positively. Walmart just seems to be in a little bit more of a position of strength.
Oh, it's not you out?
I think a little bit more aggressive in their messaging. I would expect Target to play it a little bit closer to the vest. Target
Yeah.
has been in the crosshairs with things like DEI and boycotts and other things, and
I'm
I
gonna
think
go
the
back in
last
the
thing
Order
log
the
out.
company needs right now
There
is to
we
show
go.
up
Order submitted.
on Truth Social or something along those lines.
Yeah, every company's worst nightmare right now. Michael Baker, thank you very much. We'll look for those earnings tomorrow.
Sure, happy to do it.
Meantime, still to come, Amerisports
Order
verging on
submitted.
double digits on the
Order
back of earnings,
canceled.
making some comments of its own surrounding tariffs. We'll get
Stop.
those details after a break. Don't
Stop.
forget, you can catch us anytime, anywhere. Just listen to and follow this
Order
Work on the Street
submitted.
podcast. Stay with us.
Are you investing in municipal bonds that will fund roads and
Order
bridges?
filled.
Think of Assured Guarantee's bond insurance as your guardrail. Assured Guarantee.
It's coming back up. Oh, I already got out.
At Morgan Stanley, old school hard work meets bold new thinking. To help you see untapped possibilities and relentlessly work with you to make
What?
them real.
It's a smart move to get a second opinion. You do it when you're looking for a contractor. You definitely do it with medical advice. So why not with your stock market investments?
There we go.
We can help you see opportunities you may be missing. At Henyon & Walsh, it only takes a second to schedule your free second opinion. So what's there to lose? Speak to Henyon & Walsh, the second opinion people.
So, what do you think about the Jeep Wrangler? Very spacious, loving the fathom blue. What are you going to use it for?
Thwarting international terrorism, state of the world. That kind of stuff.
Probably it's groceries. Sorry, we just saw Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning, and we are very excited. Test drive?
I don't think so. Thought he was done.
No mission is impossible with a Jeep Wrangler.
I haven't seen him on TV yet.
CNBC Pro. Match your portfolio from every angle on one optimized platform. Become a smart investor with the power of CNBC Pro. Go to cnbc.com/getpro.
Talk about your finances.
My finances are
Here we
fine.
go. Pump it, baby.
Dash Pass. I saved $6 on my grocery order, so I told myself.
Order submitted.
$0
Oh, he's
delivery.
live?
fees
You have the
on
link?
Always. I got me an opera singer that sings me compliments.
Let me get out. My mom.
Order filled.
Get out.
You need to stop spending.
You're not listening. I'm saving.
Different. I play different.
One of the greatest defense I've ever played in. Winning becomes a lifestyle.
Is it live? Oh, it is live. Yeah.
Fraud, and abuse. The Democrats will let the illegals be on, they'll destroy it. It will be destroyed. They want to have illegal immigrants be on.
Hard to hear him.
Because it wasn't designed for that. Waste, fraud, and abuse. You guarantee that your voters. For that, remember, I'm cutting drug prices by 85%. Right now, I'm saving the whole thing because I did something that nobody was willing to do. Other countries pay a tiny fraction what we do, and I instituted favored nations. We're now going to pay the lowest in the world. We're going to be the equivalent of the lowest country in the world. People go to London, they go to Canada, they go to other countries, many other countries, because they want to buy their pharmaceutical products, their drugs, at a fraction of the cost. Now we're going to have the lowest cost anywhere in the world, and nobody else will do that but me. And that might be an election by itself, might be an election winning. Now, when you add that in, when you put that into Medicaid and Medicare, we just strengthened Medicare and Medicaid. And the Democrats won't do that. You know why? Because they're taking
It's
care of
boring. Oh, cut him off.
CEO James Deng saying he's confident the company can, quote, manage through a variety of tariff outcomes, largely because of light revenue
exposure to the U.S. America made up just 26% of total revenue in 2024,
Order filled.
with sourcing from China to the U.S. only making up 8% of that number. Guidance assuming U.S. tariffs on imports do remain at 30% in terms of China, and then 10% on all others. I will add too that the company said even if after the 90 days they were to go back up to the 145, they only expect about a 5-cent impact from tariffs for the full year in 2025 EPS.
Okay, Brandon, quite a move.
Order
Almost 18%.
submitted.
Brandon Gomez. Up next on Money Movers.
Order
CEO
filled.
of Pinterest.
Order
joins me
filled.
live from CNBC CEO Council Summit, talking AI,
Order
growing competition,
submitted.
and more, as Google reportedly plans to enter the ring with a new image service of their
Order
own.
submitted.
Plus, do not miss our David Faber's big interview, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, with Elon Musk.
Order filled.
After Musk said at a Qatar forum today, he's committed to leading Tesla for the next 5 years and will
And a
spend
drop.
a lot less on future campaign donations. Tesla shareholders like the sound of that. We'll be right back.
Yeah, I'm stuck at long now. Oh, I got 5 accounts on long.
The all-new Infiniti
Order
QX80,
submitted.
a 450 horsepower twin-turbo beast of luxury. Invest in an Infiniti during the once-in-a-springtime event. We won't raise the MSRP on any vehicle before June 2nd.
These bills are crazy.
She has no idea she's sitting on a gold mine. She doesn't know that if she owns a life insurance policy of $100,000 or more, she can sell all or part of it to Coventry for cash, even a term policy. Even a term policy?
Find out if you're sitting on a gold mine. Call Coventry Direct today at 800-476-0100 or visit coventrydirect.com.
Damn, that dropped.
Some people like doing things the hard way, like doing their finances with a spreadsheet instead of using Quicken. Quicken pulls all your financial info together in one place and updates it automatically. How easy is that?
GoodRx
Can't hear
helps
him,
my
the volume's
family
so
get the
low.
medications we need at an affordable price.
Because it has saved my dog's life.
I think it's about the drug prices.
They'll say, here are the prices for this at this place and this place and this place.
Alright, get to
And
the
you know, pick the
stream
lowest
now.
spot. If you are in a situation where your pet needs medication,
Hello?
you should absolutely check out GoodRx.
Giveaway.
Your record label is taking off, but so is your sound engineer. You need to hire.
Indeed.
Indeed, you do. Our advanced matching helps find talented candidates so you can connect with them fast. Visit Indeed.com/hire.
At Public Rec, we develop premium performance fabrics that are built to last and hard to live without. Our Daymaker pads, with their various sizing options, are designed to fit your life's moment. More comfortable than jeans, more
Order
stylish than
submitted.
sweats.
The long is getting deep red. Alright, let me start. Just gotta hold on to it. Let me start the giveaway. Lucid.
I get my ideas for bad money everywhere. I look at everything as stock. I study it all the time. My viewers are my bosses. You come to my show and you learn how to do stocks.
Mad Money, weeknight 6 Eastern, CNBC.
I love Reviewer. It means everything.
Good Tuesday morning. Welcome to Money Movers. I'm Carl Quintanilla, live at Post 9 of the New York Stock Exchange, alongside Sarah Eisen, live from CNBC's CEO Council Summit today. First up this morning, Tesla's on a tear. Shares up about 100% in the last year. Elon Musk says he'll stay at the helm for at least the next 5 years.
Pinterest outperforming some of its social media peers, up 10% on the year. CEO Bill Reddy joins us here at the CEO Council Summit this hour. And summer travel demand about to kick into high gear as the industry continues to sort through FAA flying challenges. We're going to get the latest with Frontier CEO
Order
Barry
submitted.
Biffle coming up.
Meantime, some moderate weakness this morning. S&P 5940, Dow's down about 140, as some of the Treasury yields have been a little challenging this morning. A 10-year got above 4.5, 30-year once again approached 5, but we backed off just a touch
Order
this morning.
submitted.
Let's begin with mega cap tech, specifically Tesla this morning. Elon Musk saying that unless he dies,
he will remain at the helm of the company for at least the next 5 years. We're going to learn more later today during David Faber's rare interview with Musk, live from Tesla's Austin headquarters. That's coming up at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. In the meantime, we're joined now by Tesla analyst Jed Dorsheimer from William Blair, talking about some of the headlines that he made, Jed, addressing this Doha conference. What strikes you as most important? He talked a lot about his political involvement, his concerns about pay versus ownership of Tesla overall.
Yeah, I mean, I think the key here is the fact that he's not going anywhere. And I think if you're a Tesla shareholder, you really want to know that. So I think that 5-year window is a good thing. And in particular, if you look at Tesla, Tesla has always been a company really about innovation and then scaling that innovation. If you think back, it's been about, moving from high-priced, low-volume EVs to high-volume, lower-priced EVs. And today, we think it's about energy and a combination of moving from EV to autonomy. And those are the two driving factors. So Elon staying there for the next 5 years, I think will be music to shareholders' ears here.
Right. He did suggest that he thought certainly the European sales trajectories are beginning to reverse to the upside. But what really is on the line for Austin? It's really not that far away now, is it?
Yeah, I mean, Austin is going to be ramping, in terms of the AV and the robo-taxi. And, I think some of the key challenges would then be on the, tax credit. And do we see that go away, which that could be, a little bit of a monkey wrench here in the very near term. I think the other thing that Elon needs is, to use the analogy of a plane, he needs altitude. So he needs time, to have some of these things bake, if you will, and see whether or not, that attachment to the political side, which right now, it can be seen as a negative. If we start to see success from some of these policies, that could flip around and be a tailwind. So those are kind of the pros and cons of it right now. And I think overall, him at the helm will be seen as a positive.
Jen, on demand, here I'm at the CNBC CEO Council Summit. We talked to the CEO of Carvana yesterday, and I was asking him where are the best deals on used cars. And one name that did come up was Tesla, which is a reminder that prices have been pressured. That's the used car market. But I am curious what investors need to know about where margins are and whether we've seen the lows there if demand is starting to turn around. How you're thinking about that?
I mean, it's a great question, and the key here is going to be on that tax credit. So if you see, a repeal of the tax
Are you in a
credit
position?
$7,500, then there's, margins will go lower, and
I'm stuck in long.
that will be negative for
424.
For the shares. If that is not cut, then I think we may have seen a bottom.
I trust the
with
bot,
respect to
hopefully.
that. So
I mean,
we'll
my
have to
chart
see
looks like
how
a
that
long.
plays out. That's one of the things that we should have greater
It should be
clarity
green.
over the next few months on.
Yeah, and then the other thing
416, okay.
we talked about the international competition, the
Oh, you're
BYDs,
okay.
the Chinese automakers. It's no coincidence. Elon was in
Deep
Saudi
red or just
last
a little
week
red?
with President Trump. I was there. I saw him. He's speaking at the Qatar Forum. I wonder what the international exposure and demand.
Yeah,
picture
it's a
looks
lot.
like,
You only have
especially
like
incorporating some of these
1,000
markets
buffer left.
in the
Yeah.
Gulf that clearly have a lot of appetite for Tesla. They're not protesting like in Europe or like we've seen in some parts of the U.S. and also potentially not as hit with China with sort of nationalist concerns. How do you add all that up?
I mean, I don't see that so if you said, Jed, is Tesla an auto EV company and that's it, that would be the primary concern, and that would be a negative in terms of that competition. I kind of come back to this issue of, you asked a great question around margins. We look at the energy business. That's only 14% of sales, but it's 25% of the profits for the business. And then you look at the launch of autonomy. Now, if autonomy is successful, that's going to be accretive to the margin structure of the business. So the key for Tesla is, can they transform again in terms of their business, or are they going to be subject to the competition from, BYD into Europe, for example? And And the bet that we're making is that that they will be able to transform this this business, and that's why we have an outperform rating on the on the stock.
Yeah, well, when
They
we
made
have
us
more
look good
space,
for
we'll
us
talk about some
anymore.
of the competition. Certainly the Chinese and the Toyota with the new EV here in the U.S. Coming. Jed, appreciate it very much. Good to see you. Jed Dorshon.
Thanks for having me back, guys.
In terms of political spending, I'm going to do a lot less in the future, according to
No, I
Musk.
don't.
I'm
That's
eager to hear more about
expensive.
David
It's
Faber's interview
$8.
later. Turning to Washington, President Trump speaking to
Yeah.
House
You want a
Republicans
free
on
one?
Capitol Hill this
Alerted?
morning to try to build support for his so-called big, beautiful bill.
We got time yet to June, but I don't know. 4 or 5 is a stretch.
Hey, Sarah. Well, yeah, that meeting is just breaking up now. Trump, of course, coming in with a message to Republicans to unify, stop grandstanding, and to get the bill done. But from a number of
Yeah, I
Republicans
mean, we
that I
need to pull
spoke
back
with while
first.
they
It
were
hasn't.
leaving the meeting, he
I don't think
hasn't
it's
fully
red.
gotten
No, it
everyone
was red
to
yesterday.
yes yet. A number of holdouts,
Yeah.
a number of fiscal hawks saying they're going to still have to review some stuff
I
in the
took
bill.
the L. I lost 50% of it, so I ain't playing the options.
Trump basically told members
I'm
using
done.
some pretty colorful language to not touch it, except for waste, fraud, and abuse. And Republicans were spoken with saying, look,
Yeah,
we still
if
think
you
that
actually
there's
got
waste,
it,
fraud,
you'd be
and
so
abuse that we
rich.
haven't cut. There are taxes that states levy on healthcare providers. They have some
That's a
concerns
lot.
about
9,000 on evals.
that changed in the bill.
The whole spending for the
You're
year.
also
No, no, I'm telling you, you can use that on
discussion around
evals.
those state and local deduction caps. Trump told members within the room that they needed to leave it, keep it at that 30,000 proposal that's currently in the bill. Of course, you have about 5 members right now who say they will sink the bill if it doesn't get higher. So Trump gave that message directly to them. And he also spoke pretty clearly on it
Damn.
outside the room. Listen to how he characterized SALT as being an issue that would mostly benefit Democrats.
We got it done. Now people want to change it. So we're going to be talking about that. But the biggest beneficiary, if we do that, are governors from New York, Illinois, and California. And those governors are the ones that blew it because they weren't able to get it. So I think
Yeah,
we're
Trump's
gonna be
still talking.
explaining that these are all blue states.
More discussions are expected today on the bill,
Me
including
too. I
Speaker
gotta
Mike
cut my
Johnson
hair.
going
I
over
think
to the Senate side and
Thursday or
meeting with
Friday
Senate
before I go on my
Republicans
trip.
there. And we expect, of course, more discussions to be happening internally.
Next
The
next
next
weekend.
big moment
Next Friday.
seems to be coming up Wednesday morning at
Yeah.
1 a.m. A group of Republicans are going to meet to prep this bill for the floor. And
Weekend
any
trip.
changes
It's
that
the
are going
gamble.
to be made will need to be on paper, and the details will need to
Lose
be
all my
there
money
then.
and come back.
That's really going to be one of the last changes that the House has to tweak this bill before you go to a vote of the entire House. Got it?
Yes. Yeah.
So with the reversal of SALT, Emily, does that change the calculus of how much support the president
Yeah.
has in the House?
Trading is
numbers
better
looking like?
actually.
I mean, Sarah, we're going to have to see.
Because you
Members
go to the
still
casino and
coming
you
out
actually
of
have
the
to
room
dress
at
up
the
and
point
not
right
really
now.
look like a
And so
snob.
we
You know what I
haven't
mean?
gotten a chance to really chat with some of those holdouts, see how they're thinking about this. But certainly, when you talk to a number of the members who are pushing for a higher SALT
That's true.
cap, they frequently referenced how Trump had campaigned on this, how Trump had said he was going to do it, how they had the president's support and backing. That's no longer a case that they can make. And the fact of the matter is that they need savings in this bill. And the SALT cap technically counts as a savings because remember, if they did not get it done by the end of the year, the cap would be
Yeah, I
eliminated
follow
and
the
the
bot
cost
and
would rocket
I'm
up.
catching a lot
And
of
so
red
there's a
right
lot
now.
of pressure on keeping the cap where it is currently at that 30,000.
15
We'll have
minutes
to
don't
see if
look
there are
good,
any
so
other changes they can really make
just
to
trying to
this
get
bill
out.
to get some of the
I
fiscal
don't know,
hawks
trading
on board
sucks
when it
this
comes
week.
to cuts and to addressing the deficit.
Yeah, Lawler's on the tape right now. While I respect the president, I'm not going to budge on SALT. I will continue to watch that today, Emily, with your help. Emily Wilkins in D.C. Meantime, some breaking news from the FDA. Our Angelica Peoples has details. Hi,
Is it the
Angelica.
voice changer?
Good morning, Carl. That's right. The FDA is setting new guidelines for what it's looking for COVID vaccines. They're now saying that for most people, so people ages 6 to 64, they want to
You
see
join that
randomized placebo-controlled clinical trials
on the
to
YouTube
prove
thing?
that getting a booster can actually reduce some
Okay.
of those severe consequences like hospitalization, death, etc. For older people, seniors 65 and
They
up,
got 18
they'll
minutes.
take immunogenicity data, which is basically showing that you can elicit
Give
an
me
immune
450 and I'll
response
get out.
from that shot. Now, this is a change because,
Yeah,
of
but
course,
long
we've
at
had these boosters every
445.
year for the past few years, and it works the way that flu works. But now the FDA is saying that they want to see data that actually makes a difference, and that we need this annual booster cadence that we've had for the last few years. And if you take a look at Moderna and Pfizer stocks, they're actually both up, because even though you are narrowing that recommendation, saying that not everybody needs a booster anymore, it's hard to see exactly who else would come into this market now, right? If you have to conduct these large,
What's up,
expensive
trader?
trials, you might not get other new entrants.
Oh, that's your
so I think
pump.
that's why you're seeing a little bit of a boost for those companies today.
Are you
They're
still in or
giving
you
an event
out?
later today, where we will hear more from FDA leaders about this change, and it is quite a big change. So we'll come back with any other headlines we hear on that. Carl?
Yeah, that is some much
Ew,
needed
yeah.
relief for some of these names, Moderna in particular, on a day where RFK is testifying. Angelica, thank you. Angelica Peebles. Still to come this morning, the CEO of Pinterest is going to join us at the CNBC CEO Council Summit. Stocks up about 10% this year. We'll talk about what the company's seeing from consumers, their use of AI, and potential competition from Google when Money Movers continues after this.
Yeah, it's just choppy. That shit got out. Change my exit to
Well, hope.
Order canceled. Order submitted.
You've worked for a comfortable retirement for years. Now you need to plan for retirement income. Learn ways to avoid common mistakes, like being too conservative or not
Order
setting
canceled.
retirement goals. Have someone on your side to keep
Order
you
submitted.
on track. Call for Fisher's Comfortable Retirement Kit with the help you need to make your retirement a success, including the Investor's Guide to a Comfortable Retirement, 13 retirement blunders to avoid, and maximize your Social Security. Call 1-800-759-4477. Fisher tailors a plan to keep you on track for a retirement you want. And as a fiduciary, we do better when our clients do better. Call now for your Comfortable Retirement Kit. Call 1-800-759-4477. Call us today. You don't have it coming to you unless you plan for it. If your portfolio is $1 million or more, call 1-800-759-4477.
As a contractor, I find sometimes the most impactful thing you can say is what you do on your own home. A couple of years ago, we put a pool in our backyard, my wife and I. There was only one choice for the decking around the new pool. We used TimberTech because of the low maintenance on the product. You can install it and just enjoy it for its lifetime.
ePay, Redwood. I mean, after 1 year, you're sanding and refinishing if you want to keep that sharp look. If you don't want to sand and oil every year, you want low maintenance.
Performance, they're very, 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 very we get.
Ace, we know whether you grill with charcoal, gas, pellet, or griddle. We've got the perfect grill for you. Because only your local Ace has all the
No,
best
I don't
brands
think so.
in
Get
one
the
place,
lemon you
like
want. You can
Weapons,
try it, see?
Green Egg, Traeger, and Blackstone. With free assembly and delivery of your new grill, along with all the sauces,
I don't think so.
rubs,
Just
and
try it.
grilling
I just want to
options,
know.
You'll have everything you need for your perfect barbecue. That sounds pretty perfect. Around the block, what you need in stock, with service so good.
Because on the admin panel, it has 50 for 50. Is it? It won't. It won't let you. For me?
Quitting nicotine with support makes all the difference. Outsmart nicotine
Oh, damn
every
it.
step of the way with Extra.
Welcome back to Money Movers. Take a look at shares of Pinterest, up more than 10% year to date, outperforming a number of social media and tech stocks, including Meta, Reddit, Google. The company coming off of a revenue beat earlier this month, reporting record global monthly active users in the first quarter. And joining me here
Yeah,
from
you have
the
too many
CNBC
accounts.
CEO Council Summit is Pinterest CEO Bill Reddy and our own Julia Borson, who also covers the sector. Bill, it's great to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
So what is the primary driver right now of record users and engagement and double-digit revenues?
Yeah, so we've had a real transformation of the platform over the last 3 years, and we've really used AI to make Pinterest a great
Yeah.
place for users to go shop, curate their interests, We make great
It's weird, isn't it?
recommendations,
It's so weird. Like
really
my
become
funded,
Gen Z
I'm
now,
really
goes
good at
beyond,
it,
but
but
also
then
just
my
search.
Tradify, I'm
We see
just
that
dog shit
39%
at
of Gen
it.
Z users are choosing Pinterest as a first place to search, even over traditional search engines.
So just
For
stick to
career
whatever
path,
firm you're making
shopping,
payouts.
fashion, beauty, apparel, all these things are great places. It's becoming a great place for users to engage in these things. That's really working well for our business.
Now you have a very different kind of search. You have
Yeah, you
visual
can.
search and also something you call vibe search. How
right.
different is that than searching on, say, Google, where you worked for many years?
Yeah. So one of the really neat things about Pinterest is it's the only place in the Western world where users go save and curate their interests.
Are you
That
copy
gives us a really
trading those?
amazing signal for our AI to go make great recommendations to users.
On your
as to what
Tradify,
might
you
be
are?
interesting to
Oh,
them. So users can come in and just with a
I
basic
hate
little
that.
bit of
You blow it, you
expression of
blow
interest,
all
maybe
of
an
them.
Order
handbag,
filled.
something like that. We'll help them put a whole outfit together around that in their
Cool.
style
Got out
and
some
taste. Our
along.
taste graph grew more than 75% over the last 2 years. And that's really, if you ask a Gen Z user why they go to Pinterest, they'll say, well, Pinterest just gets me. And sort of that's the technology behind it, is the AI that's powering those recommendations.
One thing that I think is so interesting is while users save so much information on Pinterest, they're planning, and that gives you unique insight into the health of consumers and how they're planning to spend their money. I understand you just mined that data to give us some new insights into what you're seeing now in terms of the health of the consumer.
Yeah, that's right. Pinterest is a place where users go to plan and make intentional purchases. So we don't just see what users clicked and purchased. We see what they're planning to do in the days, weeks, and months
We
ahead.
have 12
And
minutes
so
left
we do
before
see that
the contest
consumers
is
are
over.
becoming more conscious about their purchases. So budget-related searches, for example, on things like beauty or apparel or makeup or weddings are up over 200% year on year. Sort of affordable wedding choices up 4,200%. Courthouse weddings are up. So people are being intentional about their purchases. That's right. Yeah. So people are being intentional about how they spend their money. But Pinterest is a great place for users to go and be thoughtful and intentional about those purchases, and for us to give insights to advertisers on those things.
Well, I was going to ask what you're seeing from the advertisers right now, given the spike in uncertainty in corporate America right now. Has that actually been reflected in terms of decisions and spending?
Well, consumers do shift behaviors quickly, and so advertisers are looking for that insight, and so we're engaging with advertisers on exactly that to help plug in.
Advertisers like that.
Well, we just recently gave guidance, and we gave guidance stronger than what people expected. And I think that's really about our platform being a performance-oriented platform. So I think advertisers are demanding more performance, but that's been part of the transformation of our platform over the last 3 years, is to make it really performance.
Yes, I got out.
But some of the categories where you've been growing, like autos,
Order submitted.
to really, pull back spending in terms of the economic uncertainty and volatility. And I wonder if the expansion of your variety of advertisers who are spending on Pinterest in a way exposes you more to the volatility, because now you do have an auto ad business that you maybe didn't a couple of years ago.
Well, it's been an emerging category for us, but we're roughly 1% of the overall ad market. So if you look at us over the last few years, we've grown much faster than the ad market overall. So we've been a share taker in the market. So the smaller player in that market, even if the market maybe feels some contraction, we think we can still continue to be a share taker, even if the market does tighten a bit.
Speaking of share, did you see that? So Google has its I/O today, and they unveil a Pinterest-like feature for consumers that shows images designed to give people ideas for fashion or design. How do you feel about that?
Well, there's a lot of competition in the space for sure, and even with a lot of competition in the space, you've seen us be one of the fastest growing properties, really because we're at this intersection between social search and commerce. And the things that happen on Pinterest where users curate is completely unique in the Western world. And there are other platforms, Instagram had the ability to save for a long time, Google Image Search has the ability to save. But Pinterest is a place where people come to primarily engage in that kind of curation, and it gives us a really great signal to train amazing AI. I shared recently that our new multimodal visual search model outperforms off-the-shelf models by more than 30 full percentage points. And that's because we have some amazing AI engineers, but also because the uniqueness of that curation signal from our users, where there's lots of other places that know all the things that you bought, all the things in your closet. They don't know how you style them into an outfit. We actually know how people style them into an outfit. It gives us a really unique ability to engage on those things. And we've seen lots of other, platforms have similar features, but not that same. Well, they have the ability to save, but it's not really a place where people go to search and curate necessarily to style the outfits and those kinds of things. So I think we're still quite unique in that respect.
I think it's so interesting that your background was, before you were at PayPal, you were at Google and worked in search and in ads. And here we are expecting this announcement from Google, seeming to go in direct competition with Pinterest. What is it about your technology that you think would help you compete with Google if they decide to really try to create a rival to Pinterest?
Well, I think there's room for multiple winners, right? If you step back for the last 15 years, I think search has been fragmenting for the last 15 years. And while Google has remained the strongest player, I'd say, in general purpose search, there are many sort of fit for purpose searches. How many product searches start on a place like Amazon or things like that? And we think that for visual search, for product related searches, particularly around the things where it's a visual in nature type of journey, and that's true for shopping, for travel, for a lot of categories, we think we're quite unique in that respect.
How do you think the industry is doing on safety? You have been out front and trying to be the positive, so the one that's okay for our kids to go on. It doesn't feel like it's getting much better out there.
I'd say, I feel really great with the progress that we've made. We've been a huge advocate for youth online safety, as you called out. We're the only social media platform that's private only for under 16 because
yes, but what about your
But I
competitors?
think what I would say is I think there's still a lot of room for the industry to evolve. I think this industry needs accountability. And when we did private only for under 16, we did that because we looked at it and we just didn't think it was safe for kids under 16 to be contacted by strangers online. So there's still some fundamental issues like that that I think need to be addressed across the industry. But I'm hopeful that if we can prove there's a good business model in a more positive social media, that hopefully that can be contagion and others start to compete on. I'd love to see a world where social media companies were competing on their safety records the same way that auto manufacturers compete on theirs.
That'd be good as moms as well. Bill, thank you. It's good to have you here.
Thanks
Good to
for
see you. Bill Reddy is the CEO of Pinterest. Julia Borston also here with us. We have all the big guns here at the CNBC CEO Council. Back over to you guys.
All right, Sarah, thanks. Still ahead, Home Depot CFO saying they don't plan to raise prices due to tariffs. We're going to break down those comments and their latest earnings. Plus, don't miss David Faber's interview with Elon Musk today, 2 p.m. Eastern Time from Tesla's headquarters. They'll talk about advancements in autonomous, robotics, and a lot more. We'll be right back.
Not all multimillionaires build their wealth the same way.
74 tickets.
Fearless investor.
And that's 40 people watching. That is weird.
The boot maker.
Yeah. But many do have something in common. We all Schwab.
I know.
Thanks to our award-winning service.
I still gotta check the other stuff before they
Every
get the
day, over a
code.
million multimillionaires trust Schwab with
So
$3
technically it's
billion
gonna be hard to
of their
cheat.
wealth. It is amazing. They used to have collagen, used to have a probiotic, a green juice that replaced it all with this hormone colostrum. I don't know what colostrum is. It is amazing, but it is a bioactive.
Order submitted.
It has all the essential nutrients you need for your skin, your gut, energy, focus, mood, performance, your hair, like the immune system. It strengthens.
Tuesday is not gonna get you more points by typing points.
The energy and recovery that it had after workout. But if you want to try it, we'll try it on Harvard.com.
I'm Bobby Brown, and I started Jones Road because I wasn't done. Jones Road is a modern approach to my beauty philosophy. Clean, good-for-you products that are versatile and easy to use. Learn more at jonesroadbeauty.com.
Ever worry that you're drinking too much? Take back control with OreHealth. OreHealth provides access to medication proven to help. A daily pill to drink less, or to quit drinking altogether. Text CNBC to 710-710 to learn more.
If your shipping manager left to find themselves, leaving you lost, you need to hire.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. Sponsored jobs on Indeed are 2.5 times faster to first hire. Visit Indeed.com/hire.
Buying a car is kind of a big deal. You need to see all the options. See, she knows. Car Gurus gives you the most new and used cars right in your hand, so you know your big deal is the best deal. Car Gurus, the #1 most visited car shopping site.
If you have a life insurance policy you no longer need, now you can sell your policy, even a term policy, for an immediate cash payment. Call Coventry Direct to learn more.
We thought we had planned carefully for our retirement.
But we quickly realized we needed a way to supplement our income.
Our friends sold their policy to help pay their medical bills. And that got me thinking, maybe selling our policy could help with our retirement.
I was skeptical, so I did some research and called Coventry Direct. They explained life insurance is a valuable asset that can be sold.
We learned we could sell all of our policy or keep part of it with no future payments. Who knew? We sold our policy. Now we can relax and enjoy our retirement as we had planned.
If you have $100,000 or more of life insurance, you may qualify to sell your policy. Don't
Huh?
cancel or let your policy lapse without finding out what it's worth. Visit CoventryDirect.com to find out if your policy qualifies, or call 1-800-514-7800. Coventry Direct,
redefining.
And everybody know Japanese, just anime.
Welcome to CNBC Plus, where to
CNBC Plus, on-the-go access to global market data.
Oh, just
news,
wait.
and
You got
analysis.
4 minutes left.
Start streaming at cnbc.com/plus.
For me, Squawkbox is breakfast with the most interesting people in the world.
It's a privilege to get to talk to them every day.
It's more entertaining than any other morning show, but you might get some useful information.
Squawkbox, weekdays 6 a.m. Eastern, and streaming on CNBC Plus.
Yeah, I think 5 minutes for them to
S&P and
end the
Nasdaq slightly
prize is
lower
good
this
enough.
morning, but our next guest is pretty optimistic. Thinks the S&P might hit 6600
I think people just going in,
with the right
getting
policy.
tickets and leave.
Joining us here at Post 9 this morning, UBS Global Wealth Senior Portfolio Manager Alan Rexhoff. Alan, welcome back. Good to see you.
It's great to see you, Carl.
What needs to go right to get a number like that?
Well, so we saw a consolidation in April. We saw the worst market since the Great Depression, then we saw April end up. And we think that the market has sort of recalibrated and now is ready for the potential of an upside surprise. Our base case is 5,800, 5,900, which is where we are right now. But I think the market may not be fully pricing in the opportunities that lie ahead once the tariff noise is in the background and the president can implement his policies, which are pro-growth.
So you're talking tax cuts, deregulation, anything else?
Yeah. So I mean, the market is reacting to the ability of the president to implement, I think, three main things: deregulation or consolidated regulation, consolidation of debt consolidation, and innovation, all in the context of fair trade. You know, we've had free trade for so long. Now it looks like the market is comfortable with the president's ability to negotiate fair trade. And if we wind up, you know, UBS at the end of the year is looking for 15% across the board tariffs, 10 to 15%. That's coming off of a 2.4% average, 2.5% average tariff going into this year. So if that all works out in the context of fiscal responsibility, I think you could see huge upside in the market. Not our base case, but I think we have to be prepared for an upside surprise.
Right. Would the Fed cut in that scenario?
So I think that as we transition, and we saw this in March and April, you will have some slowdown in growth. We're not looking for high GDP numbers for the end of the year. And I think during that consolidation period for the Fed, they, like every other country in the world seems to be doing, should cut interest rates. We're looking for 100 basis points in cuts by the first quarter of next year, 75 basis points of cuts this year. And I think it all pretends what the president's ability is to implement his policies, because I think a lot of the noise has faded into the background. And with UBS's global footprint, we're hearing from clients that they're voting with their wallet, and you see the money coming back into the United States.
So, Alan, does the March higher, that's creep higher in bond yields, test your bullish thesis on stock?
Yeah, so we're looking for 4% 10-year bonds by the end of the year, and we had the 30-year touch 5%.
We're going the other way.
I'm sorry?
We're going the other way at this point.
Right, and we saw the market going up in yield, and we are going the other way right now. But I think that what you're going to see is you're going to see some consolidation in the economy over the next few months. In that context, I think you'll see the Fed pressured to lower interest rates. The Fed is reactive to data. They are not forward-looking. They are reacting to data, much like, you know, debt rating agencies are looking in the rearview mirror. So is the Fed. But I think that during that time, once they see the data of where we have been, they will lower interest rates, and that will pretend lower rates in the short term. And we're really focused on the belly of the curve, you know, the 5-year. I think 5 years at 4%. That's
I'm about to start it.
You know, Jamie Dimon
Good
made
luck.
some comments yesterday, Investor Day. He used the word complacency on markets. I know that he has been
86
negative before, and
tickets.
the markets ignored him. You know, to their credit, the hurricane never came. But he did say we haven't seen the effective tariff
Who
rates
is
yet.
this? I know him from chat.
To take a hit on that. I mean, that
Yes.
still is a big risk out there.
Right, and I think that what you've seen is the markets are digesting the fact that we're dealing with reasonable players, and that ridiculous tariffs are not tenable, and that we have people who are willing to sit down and negotiate deals. And at the end of the day, it's going to be good
Well,
for
we got
America.
5 minutes.
By virtue of it being good for America, it's going to be good across the board, across every economic sphere in America. And what's good for America is good for the world.
Sounds like an environment where you would probably favor financials, materials, cyclicals. What?
1 minute.
I think that we can't ignore the innovation
Maybe next
that's happening
giveaway.
in the world.
Yeah.
Artificial intelligence,
the innovation in
Might be
energy.
taking a shit. You never
That
know.
if I were going to pick two sectors, artificial intelligence, technology, energy would be my focus. The president, this administration doesn't
Oh,
need to figure
he's
out
there.
how to say that clean energy of a certain type is the right energy. But the idea of advancements in nuclear energy, the idea of advancements in artificial
This is now.
intelligence, which speaks more towards electricity than it does a new internet, I think that this is going to have a profound effect. One thing that Carl wanted to point out is the president issued an executive order talking about
Fuck you,
artificial
Jay-Z.
intelligence and education in artificial intelligence, making the United States the hub of artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is going to affect every aspect of our lives, from what we buy to what we learn to
I
the
still use
travel.
Twitter.
This is very true. Anyone who's watching someone learn these days at school, it's a new influence. Alan, thanks. Good to talk to you.
Always good to see you, Sarah. See you next time.
You too. Bullish as ever. Thank
Yeah,
you,
yeah.
Alan.
I'm
Time now for news
gonna
updates.
check when
Silvana
he tunes
has it for
Twitter.
us. Morning, Silvana. Morning, Sarah. Good morning. The United Kingdom announced this morning it paused trade talks with Israel, leveled new sanctions against West Bank settlers, and summoned its ambassador after Prime Minister Keir Starmer said he was horrified by military escalation in Gaza. New Israeli strikes killed dozens of people in Gaza Tuesday, despite mounting international pressure to stop military operations and open the flow of aid into the enclave. A New Jersey congresswoman is now facing charges for a scuffle at a privately run immigration detention center in Newark last week.
Oh, wait.
Interim U.S. Attorney Alina
No way. He won yesterday. No.
and
Hold
his
on.
former personal attorney brought the case against
Yeah,
Lamont McIver. McIver denies wrongdoing and calls the charges
He won the other one yesterday.
Louisiana's attorney general announced the arrest today of a jail employee in connection with that mass inmate
Delius?
escape in New Orleans. The AG's office says a maintenance worker turned off the water in the cell after inmates asked him to and never reported it. The inmates broke out using a hole behind a toilet. 6 remain at large, now on the 5th day of the search, Sarah. It's like a movie.
Nah, you keep it. That's just luck. I'm not
The
gonna.
CEO of Frontier
That's just luck. So you got it.
this summer, plus of course his take on the recent tech outages at Newark Airport in New Jersey. Stock is down more than 40% this year. Money movers. We'll be right back.
Crypto Watch is sponsored by Crypto.com.
If you reply back, I'll give it to him. If he doesn't, I'll pick somebody else. He did.
Crypto.com is America's premier crypto platform.
Yeah.
The grind catches up with
Well, he did
everyone,
retweet and
even me.
everything, but
That's why I trust
okay.
Cunol Ultra High Absorption Turmeric to support my joint health. It's the #1 doctor recommended form of turmeric. It helps you keep doing the things you love
Putting
at
it on,
every
yeah.
age. Cunol,
I'll do that
brand
next
I
time.
trust.
At Public Rec, we develop premium performance fabrics that are built to last and hard to live without. Our Daymaker pads, with their
Congrats, B.
various sizing options, are designed to fit your life's moments. More comfortable
Let me
than
get the
jeans,
code.
more stylish than sweats.
It's the Omaha Steaks Memorial Day sale event, where you get 50% off site-wide. Save on favorites like pork tender filet mignon, juicy chicken breast, sides, desserts, and so much more. Order now and get our famous burgers free. To honor America's heroes, active and retired military will save
Everybody.
even more. This Memorial Day, save big and get free burgers from America's original butcher when you visit omahasteaks.com/TV today.
University of Maryland Global Campus believes in students and what they can offer the world. You get credit for experience. I didn't have to start at the bottom. I had life experience and I had actual job experience that translated to coursework and helped cut down the cost of school. The UMGC honored the level of effort that I put into myself and
Now,
helped me
at the
become a
stream,
highly
we'll do
attractive
the
candidate in the job
Discord
market.
giveaway.
Being able to buy a home is part of the
Wait, no, I
American
can do it
dream,
on the stream.
and couldn't be prouder.
Just need more space. I feel like I'm suffocating. Oh no. I'll miss the
So
episode.
thumbs up on the $100 giveaway.
Okay, let's simmer down. You'll need Realtor.com, the app the pros trust most. With over 500,000 new listings every month, you
Yeah.
can find the one today. This could be it.
Alright,
Better put a key
put
ring
that
on
in.
it. You could say that again. You better put a key ring on it. Get real with Realtor.com.
No, I got that Vietnamese store. Oh, not the Vietnamese store. Was it a Dallas Going exchange or something like that? But not, it's not Costco. Different companies, yeah.
Skincare?
So, good sleepover? Yeah, Grandma is very confused. I know it's gonna be hard, but I think it's time. You don't want to smoke. Starting to quit nicotine on your own can be... You don't want to smoke. I think I can do it. I can quit. Complicated. But with X Program, you can get a little less and outsmart nicotine. Join a free program developed by experts that can increase your odds of quitting. Text X Program to 88709.
You will pay my rent.
I gotta go talk to a camera. All right, Korean food 101. Let's break it down. You got bibimbap, japchae, mandu, but when it comes to delicious K-food, bibigo is the go-to. Don't know how to speak Korean? It's fine, I don't either.
It's not.
Sale.
Oh, I love you too. Whether you love K-pop or not, this stuff will make your taste buds sing. Bottom line is, you just have to bibigo for it. Show them the food.
Welcome back. Shares of Home Depot rising after the company did reaffirm guidance. The CFO telling our Courtney Reagan they don't plan to raise prices due to tariffs. Courtney joins us this morning with more. Hey, Court.
Hi, Carl. Yeah, so unlike Walmart, Home Depot intends to hold prices steady in the face of tariffs. Chief Financial Officer Richard McPhail tells me, quote, we anticipate that 12 months from now, no single country outside the United States will represent more than 10% of our purchases. So because of our great scale, the great partnerships we have with our suppliers, and productivity that we continue to drive in our business, we intend to generally maintain our current pricing levels across our portfolio. Now, this assumes current tariff levels, the universal 10% tariffs on imports and 30% on China. McPhail says, quote, cost is fungible. So in total, if we lower that cost pool in the business, it allows us to keep value sharp for our customers. As for its current exposure to China, McPhail would only say that Home Depot has significantly lowered its penetration of purchases from China over the last several years, and that more than 50% of total purchases are sourced from the U.S. McPhail also explains 80% of its
Oh, look who won. Nice. My boy.
Healthy with jobs and strong income growth, along with 50% home price appreciation since 2019. Still, there is some skepticism that Home Depot will truly be able to maintain prices if tariffs stay where they are. Walmart imports only a third of purchases compared to half for Home Depot. And Walmart has said that China is its biggest country of import, to be fair. But it has larger economies of scale. It also has a large, diverse vendor base with very chosen geographies and other profit streams, like advertising and membership, to help offset higher tariff costs, like Home Depot is talking about. Yet, it has said it cannot absorb all the costs.